The echo of the horn drifted on the night wind when a gray, brown tide surged out from the shadows of the distant rolling hills. Dense and endless, stretching as far as the eye could see. Light from atop the city wall illuminated the surging horde and also the taut faces of the defenders standing there. They felt a mix of tension and excitement. Jiang Sun stood behind the crenellations, squinting down. The monsters had finally arrived. This was his chance to unleash full-scale slaughter. Well, to let his summons do all the killing. As the monsters drew closer, he could finally make out their grotesque forms. These creatures looked truly bizarre. They were called Roxhard weasels. They did not seem to be mutated from ordinary wildlife. It was as if some force had shattered the genes of mountain hyenas, pangolins, and weasels, then mashed them all back together. Their bodies were as stocky as adult wild boars. Standing on 4 legs, their shoulders reached 1.2 meters high, while their bodies stretched over 2.5 meters in length. Their hind legs were nearly twice as thick as their forelegs, with backward, jointed knees. Their whole bodies lurched with every stride as they ran. Their heads resembled weasels, with long snouts. Thick drool dripped continuously from their gaping jaws. Their skin was covered in a gray, brown keratin shell, rough like parched cracked earth. Yellow pus oozed out through its fissures. A stench of rotten eggs mixed with putrefying meat washed over the city wall ahead of the beasts. Jiang Sun nearly gagged. Great. The monsters had not even reached the wall, yet their biochemical assault was already in full swing. They sure knew how warfare worked, demoralizing the enemy first. Jiang Sun checked their stats through his system panel. Roxhard Weasel LV.18 Common. HP 5300 ATK, 640 Def, 182. Roxhard Weasel LV.22 Common. HP 7700 ATK, 900 Def, 262. Roxhard Weasel LV.32 Common. HP 15200 ATK, 1720 Def, 512. Roxhard Weasel LV.42 Common. HP 23200 ATK, 2520 Def, 712. Roxhard Weasel LV.62 Elite. HP? ATK? Def? EXP? Level 15, 22 common mobs led the charge. Level 30, 45 variants, larger in size, blended among the horde. What shocked Jiang Sun most was the entity whose stats were completely hidden, marked only as Level 62 Elite. He recalled the rules of the Guanlan system. You could not view detailed data for foes more than 50 levels above yourself. Jiang Sun was merely level 10, so it made perfect sense that he could not read its attributes. His thoughts were cut short as the beast horde closed to within 300 meters. All professions stationed along the southern wall tensed for battle. Once the monsters entered firing range, countless skills erupted forth. Mages struck first. Fireballs, ice spears, and wind blades streaked through the air toward the oncoming swarm. Chun, a mage from the 3rd squad, launched a fireball. It slammed into a level 18 Roxhard weasel. Flames exploded. The beast was sent tumbling. Chunks of its keratin shell shattered, blood and pus streaming down its body. A massive damage value, 4456, floated above it. The fireball stripped most of its health, leaving barely a sliver remaining. Damn, that's an absurd amount of health, Shen muttered as he began charging another fireball. Jiang Sun stared in surprise. This was supposed to be a high-damage mage. Shen was a respectable level 37 spellcaster, yet one skill had failed to one-shot a level 17 monster. That felt off. Under normal progression, a level 37 mage built purely for intelligence ought to exceed 2,000 attack power. Maybe his skill proficiency was low, resulting in poor damage multipliers, Jiang Sun speculated. The wounded weasel never got back up. Trampled beneath the feet of its rushing kin, it was crushed into pulp. While observing the battlefield, Jiang Sun fulfilled his duty as the seal bearer. He flung countless marks onto the monsters crowding below the wall. Each mark cost 40 mana points. His natural mana regeneration could no longer keep up. There was nothing to do but deplete his mana pool and wait for it to refill. Fortunately, his passive mana spring restored 28 mana every second, a fairly rapid rate. The seal bearer went to work. All mages and archers on the wall tested the monsters with basic skills before preparing their ultimate abilities. Even so, their combined firepower mowed down many of the front-line Roxhard weasels. At the same moment, heavy iron, spined crossbows mounted on the arrow towers opened fire. Thick bolts pierced through 2 weasels apiece, pinning them to the ground. Archers and mages positioned on wall buttresses unleashed attacks from the flanks. Streaks of light blanketed the monster horde. Weasels shrieked and dissolved into particles, Yet more swarmed forward to fill the gaps, charging straight for the base of the wall. Those that fell were trampled by their successors. Roxhard weasels began scaling the wall. Their claws scraped against stone crevices with an ear-splitting grind. Mages and archers unleashed their most powerful abilities. Meteorites crashed from above. Arrow rains poured down onto the densely packed horde, inflicting heavy casualties. These high-power skills, however, had cooldown timers. After each volley, they had to wait before casting them again, relying on lesser spells in the interim. Jiang Sun joined the fight, summoning his 3 companions. The breathtakingly beautiful Ling Yu materialized, drawing gasps from the soldiers atop the wall. Seated upon her swing, she looked every inch an otherworldly fairy, and many stared in open awe. Iron Orb appeared next. The palm-sized gilded iron puppet hovered beside Jiang Sun's shoulder, its round eyes fixed firmly on the horde below. Then it shot downward at high speed. Jiang Sun's heart leaped. What was it doing? Was it throwing itself into certain death? Without hesitation, Iron Orb activated Mountain Shatter Strike. Its head swelled 3 to 4 times its normal size. Its body flattened, its enlarged skull acting like an enormous hammer, reminiscent of the legendary golden maces of Li Yuanba. Wow! Since advancing to platinum rank, Iron Orb had learned some impressive new tricks. Iron Orb locked onto a level 18 Roxhard weasel and hurtled straight for its face. Boom! A sickening splintering, the wet crunch of a melon bursting. The weasel's skull shattered completely. Blood jetted high into the air, exposing jagged white vertebrae. Its body stumbled forward 2 paces before collapsing. Shockwaves rippled outward from the point of impact, sending 3 or 4 nearby monsters flying. They tumbled through the air and crashed motionless onto the ground. Mountain Shatter Strike granted a 5.0 times attack multiplier. Iron Orb's Platinum rank attack stat stood at 3519. Combined with the multiplier, it dealt well over 16,000 damage per blow. The accompanying shockwave carried a 2.0 times multiplier, dealing nearly 7,000 splash damage. A level 18 Roxhard weasel only possessed 5,300 hit points. Both direct and splash damage were more than enough to kill it outright. Iron Orb crushed beasts left and right. Shaking blood from its frame, it darted toward the next target. 2 or 3 monsters per second. Its gilded form blurred across the beast tide. Every collision obliterated another weasel's skull. Ling Yu was far less reckless. She floated close beside Jiang Sun, clearly aware of how dangerous the beast horde was. If her weak summoner master were caught off guard and ambushed, he would die instantly. She stayed to defend him, steadily launching feather blades down into the fray. Each feather blade sliced clean through one Roxhard weasel, splitting its body in 2. Salted Fish was living up to its name. Of the 3 summons, it remained gold tier, its mere 500 plus attack power paling in comparison. Still, it did its part. It fired water arrows sneakily from behind the battlements, trying to earn its keep so it would not be left out of the action. It knew exactly how to play its part. Each defensive squad fought under immense pressure. Eventually, Roxhard weasels clambered onto the wall. Warriors, iron, guard tanks, and assassins rushed in to cut them down. Even so, casualties mounted. Healers from every squad cast waves of soft green healing light over wounded allies. Squads holding stable sections of the wall lent firepower to neighboring sectors to ease their burden. And this was merely the opening phase of the beast tide. Jiang Sun dreaded imagining how brutal later stages would become. Though still busy casting marks, Jiang Sun grew restless watching Iron Orb rampage below. Glancing at Ling Yu, who stood guard faithfully beside him, a thought crossed his mind. What if Ling Yu escorted him out into the chaos? It held undeniable appeal, yet carried enormous risk. He pictured himself charging out only to get overwhelmed. That was not his style. Besides, the stench grew far worse further out. He had no wish to subject himself to that misery. He looked over and noticed Old Sun from his squad staring out at the battlefield in stunned disbelief. Iron Orb's rampage had practically neutralized all monsters in their defensive sector. Mountain Shatter Strike shockwave covered a 3-meter radius. Its area of effect exceeded the squad's entire assigned stretch of wall. Every blow wiped out groups of foes. Iron Orb struck every 0.8 seconds, moving so fast it left afterimages. It pushed deep into the horde, clearing everything in its path. Flesh, blood, and viscera flew everywhere in a horrific display. Unfortunately, the flat plain beyond the wall meant clearing a narrow channel accomplished nothing. Monsters from both sides would surge in to fill the empty space. Jiang Sun recalled Iron Orb back, ordering it not to stray too far from the base of the wall. This time the puppet obeyed. Once its immediate area was clear, it shifted to support adjacent sections, striking left and right. Iron Orb hammered a wide, empty zone at the foot of their stretch of wall. Other sectors remained swarming with monsters. Only beneath the third squad's wall was the ground clear. An archer from a neighboring sector loosed an arrow, then glanced sideways. His hands trembled so badly he nearly shot a teammate. He nudged the mage beside him. "Look over there. What is going on?" The mage turned his head. Beneath the third squad's wall, there were no Roxhard weasels at all. Any beast entering that zone was sent flying, dead before hitting the ground. That golden thing, what even is it? Not sure. Looks like a summon. A summon? Those are rare. Can summons really be that powerful? Everyone present wanted an answer. Even members of the third squad stood dumbfounded. Old Sun leaned against the crenellation, setting down his sword. He pulled a cigarette from his pack, lit it, and took a deep drag. He had fought 6 beast tides in his life, yet he had never witnessed anything so bizarre. Seeing the cigarette, Jiang Sun wandered over and gave him a pleading look. Old Sun, understanding, tossed one over. "I'm good, I quit," Jiang Sun said. "Why quit? A smoke after battle is pure bliss. Mom says it's bad for your health. When have you heard of someone dying from smoking? Mom also says it costs too much money. Ridiculous. When have you ever seen anyone driven into poverty by cigarettes?" Some truly strange logic, Jiang Sun thought. Oddly persuasive logic at that, and he put the cigarette between his lips anyway. Li Jia paused her healing and mana restoration spells. There was hardly anyone left who needed healing in their sector. The whole squad had stopped fighting, transfixed by the iron puppet slaughtering monsters below. All eyes turned toward Jiang Sun, who stood there with a cigarette in his mouth. Where did this kid come from? How can his summon be this overpowered? Mid-conversation, a figure sprinted across the narrow top of the battlements. Lei Meng, second order brawler of the Bloodspike Company, moved along the wall as easily as on flat ground. He vaulted over the crenellation into the third squad's position. "Where's that iron lump? Where'd it go?" He crouched on the battlement and peered down just in time to watch Iron Orb smash straight through a Roxhard weasel's skull, blood and brain matter spraying outward. Lei Ming watched, fascinated. "Wow, that thing is terrifying. Its attack power is definitely second order tier." The brute admired another brute. He began cheering Iron Orb on. "Yes, smash its skull. That big one over there. Hit it." Whether Iron Orb heard him or not, it charged directly toward the large monster. Boom. The weasel's head exploded, and its body stumbled forward before collapsing. Lei Ming slammed his palm against the stone wall. "Beautiful. That's how it's done. Crack open skulls. Real warriors fight with unbridled ferocity." Jiang Sun shot him aside, long glance. Is this man every bit as simple-minded as Iron Orb? Was it appropriate for a second-order brawler to act like this? Regardless, Iron Orb drew every gaze. Fighters from other sectors stole glances whenever they had a spare moment. The reprieve did not last long. The beast tide never let up. Fallen monsters were instantly replaced. More and more weasels clambered onto the wall in other sections. Larger specimens appeared among the ordinary horde. At first, an occasional level 32 monster mixed in among weaker foes, easily dispatched by Iron Orb. Soon level 42 variants arrived, bulkier, their shells tinged dark red. Level 43 Roxhard weasels boasted 23,000 hit points and 700+ defense. One mountain, Shatter Strike, dealt roughly 16,000 damage. 2 blows were required to bring one down. Before long, far deadlier elite monsters arrived, radiating overwhelming menace. One Roxhard weasel loomed 4 to 5 times larger than ordinary specimens. Its shoulders stood 5 meters high, its shell as thick as iron plating. The ground trembled with every thundering step it took. Jiang Sun scanned its stats. Roxhard Weasel LV.48 Elite, HP, 99760 ATK, 7450 DF, 2280 Hardened Carapace active. The keratin shell glows dark crimson. Defense increased by 100%. Lasts 60 seconds. Cooldown 120 seconds. Brute Force Charge active. Powerful hind. Leg thrust propels it forward. Deals 2.0 times attack damage to the first target hit and knocks them back. Cooldown 12 seconds. Shattering Tail Slam active. It slams its tail hard against the ground. Deals 1.5 times attack damage to all targets within 3 meters and slows them by 30% for 3 seconds. Cooldown 15 seconds. Nearly 100,000 health, over 2,000 defense. And a skill that doubled its defense. Iron Orb noticed the colossal foe. It turned and charged straight at the elite. Every soldier on the wall gasped. They inhaled so sharply many nearly choked on the thick stench, tears streaming from their eyes. Lei Ming laughed loudly. This little thing has no fear at all. I like its spirit. This was a level 48 elite. Elite monsters had stats multiple times higher than ordinary foes. Iron Orb charged forward without hesitation. Mountain Shatter Strike. Boom. The elite Roxhard Weasel stumbled backward 2 paces. A massive dent caved into its shell, crimson cracks spreading outward from the impact. It shook itself, barely harmed, and searched for its tiny attacker. It took a moment for its poor eyesight to locate the small, iron puppet. Iron Orb was stunned. This foe was far too tough to kill in one blow. The elite leaped, opening its fanged jaws to bite down on Iron Orb. Iron Orb darted aside. In raw speed, only Ling Yu could outmatch the platinum rank puppet. Fast as the elite was, it could never catch up. Iron Orb grew fired up. It circled behind the elite and unleashed another mountain shatter strike directly onto the back of its skull. The blow landed solidly. The elite staggered forward, a deep gash splitting its head, blood and pus pouring down. Iron Orb's effective attack power was 3,519. Multiplied by 5.0 from Mountain and Shatter Strike, minus the elite's boosted 4,000 plus defense. Each strike dealt roughly 13,000 damage. Against 99,000 total health, 8 hits would be needed to bring it down. Iron Orb still had to avoid the elite's skills. Its 7450 attack, combined with skill multipliers of 2.0, would deal catastrophic damage if they connected. Iron Orb possessed 5,000 health and over 5,000 defense. Even so, one solid hit would take away a quarter of its life. Danger loomed, yet Iron Orb's speed let it kite the giant foe from the air. Jiang Sun sent a mental command: avoid direct clashes, wear it down with hit, and run tactics. The iron puppet obeyed. From a distance, it gave Jiang Sun a thumbs-up gesture of acknowledgement. Iron Orb struck whenever an opening appeared, then soared back into the air to repeat the cycle. After a long fight, the elite finally collapsed under Iron Orb's hammering blows. Accustomed to instant kills, Iron Orb found fighting an enemy requiring 8 hits rather tedious. The defenders watched in awe. An elite had been slain single-handedly by one summon. Ordinarily, elites required a full squad of equal-tier fighters to grind down over prolonged combat. Iron Orb's era of effortless one-shot kills had ended. With elites entering the fray, its clearing rate dropped noticeably. Though it still outperformed ordinary fighters by a wide margin, it no longer dominated the battlefield completely. Ranged fighters of the third squad rejoined combat. As time passed, more elites mingled within the beast horde. Then a deep, resonant roar echoed out of the distant darkness. Low and thunderous, it was clearly not the cry of a Roxhard Weasel. Another colossal foe was drawing near. Jiang Sun could only sigh in exasperation. This was supposed to be a minor-scale beast tide? Given this intensity and monster density, how could anyone call it minor? He mentally shouted at the system of Guanlan. Look me in the eyes and explain this. No matter how Jiang Sun complained about the scale of the horde, the monsters kept advancing. He wondered where so many creatures originated. Could the Guanlan world simply spawn them out of thin air, like in a game? What purpose would that serve? To exterminate humanity and the players? That seemed unlikely. 300 years of observation suggested the world generally leaned toward the player's side. He could not puzzle it out, so he gave up thinking. When disaster loomed, he would simply keep his head down and hope it passed him by. The battle raged on atop the city wall. Iron Orb continued its rampage below. Ling Yu guarded Jiang Sun, firing steady volleys of feather blades. Salted fish hid behind battlements, sniping with water arrows. The clear open zone Iron Orb had hammered out beneath the third squad's wall shrank, compressed by the pressure of advancing high-level monsters and elites. Other wall sections burned with ferocious combat. Ranged fighters of the third squad lent support to neighboring defensive positions. Lin Xiaoya from 8th Sector kept glancing toward their section. That summoner's summons were unbelievably powerful. She had never heard of any summoner with such an exceptional talent. Where had he come from? Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoya recalled that someone in her class had chosen to become a summoner this year. Everyone had been talking about that figure. She kept staring, and the more she looked, the more familiar the person seemed. Why did they look so much like one of her classmates? That back view, and that annoyingly cheeky personality. Taking advantage of a lull in the fighting, she secretly snapped a photo toward Jiang Sun and sent it to the class group chat. The picture captured Jiang Sun's back. In front of him, Ling Yu sat leisurely swinging on her swing, while the iron sphere was wreaking havoc before the city walls. I ran into an incredibly powerful summoner. Take a look. Does this back view look familiar to anyone? Everyone who had been lurking in the group suddenly popped up. Sun Xiaoqiao, who was always the biggest gossip, replied first. Hey, are those summoned beasts? That human-shaped summoned beast is absolutely gorgeous. I'm so jealous. Wang Xiaoming, TSK. Who said summoners were the weakest? This guy looks ridiculously strong. Wu Banxian, the class fortune teller, had a different focus from everyone else. Now then, let me do a quick divination. That summoner looks rather familiar. Prompted by Wu Banxian's words, the classmates opened the photo and studied it from every angle. Sure enough, the more they looked, the more familiar it became. Holy crap, that really looks just like Brother Sun. And didn't Jiang Sun pick the summoner class? Finally, Li Lingqian settled it. This is Jiang Sun. I'd recognize that back anywhere. The group chat exploded. Messages tagging Jiang Sun poured in, quickly hitting 99+. Li Lingqian. Alright, Jiang Sun. You refused to team up with me, and it wasn't because you were afraid of dragging me down. It was clearly that you were afraid I would hold you back. Back when everyone had awakened their classes, Li Lingqian had not cared at all that Jiang Sun had chosen Summoner, and had wanted to team up with him to level together. But Jiang Sun had feared his summoned beasts would make him look bad, so he had made up an excuse to turn her down. Evidently, the beautiful Li Lingqian still remembered that incident. Jiang Sun's mask had been practically useless. Anyone who knew him well could recognize him just from his back. After all, his exasperating, laid-back aura was utterly one of a kind. Li Lingqian was really quite impressive to have identified him purely by his back. As the saying goes, cherish the person who can recognize you just by seeing your back. Either they know you down to your very core, or they are your bitter rival. Jiang Sun paid no attention to the flood of group chat messages. He had far more important things to handle. The always welcome tally of universal experience points. Leaning against the battlement, he took the chance to open his status panel and glance at his universal experience pool. The number popped up, and even he stared in surprise. Universal experience points, 67,300. After wiping out the dense hordes of gravel rats in the first wave of the beast tide, his experience pool had shot straight up to 67,000. If Jiang Sun had fought alone, the total would have been 4 or 5 times higher. But since he was in a 10-person party, most of the experience had been divided among the group. For an ordinary player, this would be nearly enough to rise from level 1 all the way to level 10. Yet promoting a single summoned beast alone cost 30,000 experience points, even with the Secret Realm's cultivation speed boost active. He now had enough experience to promote Salted Fish to Platinum rank. Still, he checked the levels of his 3 companions. Lingyu LV.9, Salted Fish LV.5, Iron Sphere LV.8. He wanted to get all of them to level 10. Those uneven levels irritated him. For now, he had barely enough to upgrade Salted Fish. Fine, he would promote Salted Fish first. He glanced at his seal points. After slaying so many monsters lately, his seal points had climbed substantially. Seal points 9,900/10,000. He was just a tiny bit short of the 10,000 milestone, and progress was far faster than he had expected. What amazed him was how little real world time had passed. He had only just started grinding monsters in Anyang Town when he was swept straight into this city defense battle. He clicked his tongue. Very well. He had enough experience. Time to deal with Salted Fish. He hoped that after advancing to Platinum rank, Salted Fish would stop being such a slacker. But he could not simply vanish out of thin air in front of everyone. People would think he had been ambushed and killed. He needed an excuse. The old reliable excuse of excusing himself to relieve himself would work. Old Sun was leaning against the battlement smoking, his eyes fixed on the ground below, watching Iron Sphere tear through monsters. Captain, I need to relieve myself. Request permission to leave. Jiang Sun spoke completely unapologetically. Without turning his head, Old Sun waved a hand. Jiang Sun turned and walked toward the corner of the city wall. Finding a blind spot where no one was watching, he leaped and teleported into the secret realm. Dense primal vitality mist washed over him from the 5th floor. Compared to the blood-soaked atmosphere atop the city wall, it felt like an entirely different world. Thick primal vitality filled the air. Every breath made his whole body feel wonderful. He took several deep breaths, clearing the stench of gravel rats from his lungs. Finally, some relief. That smell had nearly burned his nose. He summoned Salted Fish to his side. Salted Fish floated in mid-air, its long fish body slowly swishing its tail through the mist. Its golden scales glinted with tiny flecks of light. It stared blankly at Jiang Sun, confused about why it had been called back. Advance. Confirm. Universal experience points, 30,000. Salted Fish Gold LV.5 advancing to Platinum LV.5. The number in his experience pool plummeted sharply. Salted Fish's body went rigid. Its perpetually lazy expression froze completely. Its fish mouth gaped open, opening wider and wider. One golden scale after another across its body lit up, the glow growing blindingly bright. Slowly, it faded from sight, leaving behind a translucent, hazy aura mass with 90% transparency, nearly invisible if you were not looking closely. The aura mass then began to rhythmically expand and contract like breathing, gradually solidifying. At last, the outer shell shattered. A small creature less than 40 centimeters tall hovered in mid-air, staring straight back at Jiang Sun. Its round fish, like head made up nearly half its body. Set squarely on the front of its head was one huge, shiny black eye that took up almost its entire face. Faint silver marks remained where its two original eyes had once been, like natural birthmarks. Its O-shaped mouth opened and closed, looking utterly silly. Limbs had grown, short and plump like those of a giant salamander, sticking out from the sides of its round torso. Half a fishtail still jutted out from its rear, twitching unconsciously. What on earth was this? Salted Fish had flipped over, yet it still looked like a salted fish. This was ridiculous. Regardless, its appearance had undergone a massive transformation. Its long fish-form body had shrunk and turned plump. Its appearance somewhat resembled the bow fish from the classic of mountains and seas, yet it was not quite the same. It felt like an incomplete evolutionary transition. It blinked its single large eye and looked at Jiang Sun. What are you staring at? Don't you recognize this young lady? Wow. It could talk, and it sounded quite confident. Jiang Sun stared for a long time at this creature that was neither human nor fish. Iron Sphere had a cool-looking iron doll form, and Ling Yu carried the gentle air of a kind older sister. And then there was this one. It looked like some spoiled young lady had wandered out of nowhere, and it was still a fish. It could at least have become a human-headed fish, or a fish-headed human, or half human and half fish. Just imagining that sight made Jiang Sun snort with laughter. In this evolution, all it had gained were salamander-like limbs, and its two eyes had merged into one. Well, at least it could speak now. The team would not be so quiet anymore. Iron Sphere was quiet by nature, and Ling Yu was also reserved. From now on, Salted Fish would liven up the group atmosphere. Jiang Sun looked at Salted Fish with mixed feelings. It really had not amounted to much. It had only flipped over, not transformed into a dragon. What a disappointment. Salted Fish tilted its head, sounding clearly displeased. What? You look dissatisfied. What about this young lady is unsatisfactory? Speak up. Haha. I'm satisfied, totally satisfied. Any summoned beast of mine is a good one. A mother never thinks her child is ugly. I would never look down on my own summoned beast. Jiang Sun knew how to smooth things over. Each of his summoned beasts had a distinct personality, and as their master, he had to keep the group functioning smoothly. That was what a leader did. Hand out grand visions when there was nothing to do. Let subordinates fight when trouble came. Claim the rewards for himself, and pass blame onto others. That was leadership. Jiang Sun had fully mastered that mindset. He checked its stats. Salted Fish Platinum 0, Tier LV.5. HP 7427. Attack 2063. Defense 825. Normal attack 5. Shot water arrow. Salted Fish spits 5 consecutive water arrows at enemies. Each arrow deals 300% of attack damage and applies 1 stack of dehydration to target's hit. Skill 1. Drying Domain. Unfolds a domain at a designated location with a 50-meter radius. Persists after activation. 5-minute cooldown once closed. All enemy units within the domain take continuous withering damage equal to 50% of attack per second. Every 5 instances of withering damage an enemy receives adds 1 stack of dehydration. Dehydration reduces target movement speed and casting speed by 5% per stack. Stackable. Blood, Drying Restoration. All damage dealt to enemies by the domain is converted in real time into an equal amount of healing. Healing distribution can be freely adjusted, and targets include the summoner, all summoned beasts, and any allied party members. Passive, Lying Flat. While Drying Domain is active, Salted Fish floats in mid-air, immune to all ground-based stuns and slows. It will not be prioritized as a target by enemies. The skills looked simple at first glance, yet surprisingly complex. There was Drying Domain, Blood Drying Restoration, and the Dehydration debuff. Quite a lot going on. Jiang Sun studied them carefully and realized that this promotion had truly turned Salted Fish into a professional slacker. Once the domain was deployed, it could simply drift around inside, acting as a hidden support. Its lying, flat passive kept monsters from targeting it on purpose. The withering damage dealt constant harm to surrounding foes. Though the base multiplier of 50% attack was low, it triggered every single second. On top of that, all damage it inflicted healed the entire party. Incredible. It drained the lives of enemies to sustain its allies. And dehydration could keep stacking. Jiang Sun wondered what would happen if a target hit 100% stacks. Would it freeze them in place? Chuckling at the thought, he pictured monsters charging into Ling Yu's area, only to gradually lose the ability to move. They would march and find shape and never make it back out. Who could they complain to? Jiang Sun fell silent after reading through everything. Sure enough, salted fish could lie flat completely now. Once its domain was active, it only needed to adjust the healing allocation for teammates from time to time. Before, it had at least swatted foes with its tail. Now it did not even need to lift a finger. Everything ran automatically through the domain. It was not so much fighting as running an automatic healing station on the battlefield. Truly, personality shaped evolutionary paths. There was nothing Jiang Sun could do about it. Let it lie flat. It brought damage output, healing, and crowd control all at once. What was wrong with lying flat? It could still fight while slacking. How frustrating for the enemies. He checked his experience pool. 30,000 had been spent, leaving 37,000 remaining. Salted fish was still level 5. He decided to push its level higher while the secret realm cultivation boost was still active. Opening salted fish's panel, he pulled up the level up interface. Summon beasts leveled using the same experience rules as players. Though higher, tier beasts required far more experience per level. Without hesitation, he poured in the experience. Numbers in the experience pool dropped rapidly. Layers of golden leveling light wrapped around salted fish. The one-eyed little fish, human curled up, bathed in soft radiance, as its stat values climbed steadily. When the light faded, he reopened its panel. Salted fish, Platinum 0, tier LV.10. Its base stats were vastly different from right after promotion. Salted fish, Platinum 0, tier LV.10. HP, 10152. Attack, 2820. Defense, 1128. Its base HP had risen from just over 7,000 to more than 10,000. Attack and defense had also improved. Stacking on top of summon amplification and other summoning method bonuses, its effective HP reached 25,600. Attack topped 7,100, and defense neared 2,900. Another ruthless combat unit was born. Of course, it was still a lazy creature that would fall asleep the moment its domain was set up. Drawing domain operated entirely on its own. Some creatures had all the luck. Salted fish genuinely got to lie back and relax. Meanwhile, its master Jiang Sun still had to grind for experience and resources. It was enough to make him huff in jealousy. Time to head back to the city wall. He could not stay away too long and risk something going wrong. He leaped back onto the city wall corner. The moment he landed, he spotted Lei Ming squatting right where he had been standing, glancing all around. Where did you go just now? I thought some monster had carried you off. I went to relieve myself. Now of all times. I couldn't hold it back. Mind your own business. Lei Ming rolled his eyes. He thought to himself that this kid really was something. While the city faced a critical siege, he snuck off to take care of personal business. For all that had happened, not much real world time had passed, only roughly 10 minutes. Meanwhile, the roaring figure from the darkness finally came into view for all the professional fighters. The source of that deafening roar slowly revealed itself. As the creature appeared, the endless waves of gravel rats vanished, no longer spawning. The beast stretched over 10 meters long and stood 5 meters tall, like a small mountain slowly stepping out of the dark. Its oppressive aura weighed heavily on everyone. It was a colossal scorpion. Dark, gray chitin glinted with metallic sheen in the firelight. 2 giant pincers rose high, and its stinger curved upward, its tip glowing with eerie green light. Boss Eye Rock, Armored Giant Scorpion LV.75. Skill 1. Skill 2. Skill 3. More question marks. Were they mocking him for being low level? Unbelievable. Jiang Sun muttered to himself. He turned and lowered his voice to Old Sunday. Captain, can you see that big scorpion stats? Tell me what you know. Old Sun narrowed his eyes and studied it, his expression grim. Rock, Armored Giant Scorpion, level 75 boss. It has over 800,000 HP alone. This will be no easy fight. What about its other stats and skills? Old Sun shot him a sideways glance. Its stats are absurdly high. Its shell is extremely tough, giving it massive defense. Its pincers can sweep for area of effect damage. Its tail stinger sprays poison mist, dealing poison damage every second for 10 whole seconds. My advice is don't get reckless. Old Sun had already seen Jiang Sun's tendency to take risks. Against ordinary monsters, Iron Sphere could hold its own, but this foe was far beyond Iron Sphere's capacity to handle alone. The rock, armored giant scorpion halted 200 meters outside the city wall and lifted its head, coldly staring up at the defenders atop the battlements. Its gaze showed clear signs of high intelligence. It was observing, searching for any threats directed at itself. After a short moment of observation, it let out a piercing screech that echoed far across the wilderness. For matching roars answered from the four directions of Blackrock Town: east, south, west, north. Boss rank monsters had appeared at every section of the city wall. The sound was harsh, like metal scraping against glass. Rustling noises rose from the darkness, mixed with beastly howls. At first there were only a few cries, then dozens, then countless numbers. The sounds came from a new breed of monster: rock, ridge hyenas. Ordinary rock, ridge hyena LV.55, HP, 40100, attack, 3890, defense, 1212. Skill bite. Clamps jaws onto a target and savages it, dealing 300% of attack damage. Elite E-Rock, ridge hyena LV.60, HP, 175350, attack, 11600, defense, 3655. Skill bite. Clamps jaws onto a target and savages it, dealing 300% of attack damage. They had dusty, brown fur, jaws split nearly to their ears, revealing rows of yellow fangs. Saliva dripped continuously from their mouths. Pack after pack lowered their heads, growling low in their throats, and advanced unhurriedly from behind the rock, armored giant scorpion, toward the city walls. These represented the highest stats among the rock, ridge hyenas. Many others ranged from level 30 to 40 odd. They covered the southern wilderness in dense numbers. These monsters had terrifying stats. By comparison, Jiang Sun's 3 platinum tier summoned beasts did not look nearly so formidable. That was purely because their levels were still low. These foes were all 50 plus or even 60 plus in level. If Jiang Sun raised his own level to 50 or 60 and brought his summoned beasts up alongside him, their stats would easily outclass even the elite rock, ridge hyenas. Behind the hyenas came spherical monsters. Jiang Sun focused his gaze. Ordinary rolling, stone bug LV.50, HP, 30100, attack, 3140, defense, 962. Skill, roll forward. Tramples enemies, dealing 200% of attack damage. Deals double damage when colliding with obstacles such as city walls. Rolling, stone bugs curled into stone spheres more than 2 meters across. They rumbled forward behind the hyena packs, carving long tracks across the ground. They were clearly built specifically to batter down city defenses. Who said monsters lacked intelligence? These creatures were quite clever. Further in the distance stood rows of smaller scorpion-type monsters. Unlike regular scorpions, they bore multiple tail spikes pointing straight toward the city wall. Ordinary thorn, tail scorpion LV.55, HP, 40100, attack, 3890, defense, 1212. Skill, long, range barrage. Fires one tail spike with 300-meter range. Deals 300% of attack damage on hit. 3-second cooldown. Elite, thorn, tail scorpion LV.60, HP, 175350, attack, 11600, defense, 3655. Skill, fires 2 tail spikes with 600-meter range. Deals 300% of attack damage on hit. 3-second cooldown. Long, range firepower. Jiang Sun was shocked all over again. An elite thorn, tail scorpion boasted frightening attack power. A single hit would almost certainly kill him outright. How were they supposed to fight this? The second wave had arrived, vastly more sophisticated than the mindless charges of the first wave. It was a full-scale general assault, every monster force deployed at once. Boss monsters held the rear line. Rolling, stone bugs focused on smashing the walls. Rock, ridge hyenas led the charge. Thorn, tail scorpions provided long, range-covering fire. What a terrifying formation. These monsters fought with genuine cunning. Seeing this sight, Jiang Sun felt nervous. Could the defenders on the wall hold out? As Jiang Sun stared in shock, another 10-person team of professional fighters arrived behind their defensive sector. Clearly, the city defense commanders realized that one 10-person squad every 5 meters could not hold against this assault. Defensive forces had been doubled. Old Sun drew his blade, snarling at the horde below. Damn, this is brutal. Everyone stay steady. We still have high-tier professionals backing us up. We can hold this line. The defenders exchanged uneasy glances, then looked at the newly arrived reinforcements whose setup matched their own. Every member of the third squad stood straight, grim-faced. Fighting the gravel rats had been tiring but manageable. Now real pressure weighed on them. Jiang Sun leaned against the battlement, observing the monsters outside. His mind raced through plans. Iron Sphere could charge down into the fray, yet even powerful units fell to overwhelming numbers. Elite monsters would deal heavy damage to Iron Sphere. Without reliable healing, that would be far too risky. The rock, armored giant scorpion boss lingered in the background, waiting. They needed to proceed with extreme caution. This would be the perfect chance to test Salted Fish's battlefield healing capabilities. As for Jiang Sun himself, he was just a weak, helpless summoner. His best bet was to stay safe atop the wall. With that thought, he ducked behind Lingyu. Lingyu noticed and pulled him over to sit on her swing, so she could guard him more easily. As the second wave of monsters descended, the defensive formation of Blackrock Town finally activated. A massive cobalt blue light shield enveloped the entire Blackrock Town. The rolling stone worms were the first to crash into the city walls. Stone spheres more than 2 meters in diameter slammed against the southern wall with thunderous rumbles, shaking the whole section of wall violently. The blue glow of the defensive formation flickered wildly, ripples spreading outward from each point of impact. After one collision, the rolling stone worms rumbled backward, built up speed, and rolled forward to strike again. Hundreds of rolling stone worms scattered across the southern wall. Thudding impacts echoed non-stop, as if giant hammers were pounding the wall blow after blow. Herds of ridge hyenas charged forth behind the rolling stone worms. They threw themselves frantically against the protective light shield, biting and clawing with every means at their disposal. The outer surface of the light shield was covered in dense ridge hyenas, much like a swarm of pests pouring in. Professionals atop the city wall opened fire. An armor-piercing arrow buried itself in a level 55 ordinary hyena, lodging halfway into its fur without penetrating far. The hyena glanced down, shook itself, and kept charging forward. The archer's face paled. Hundreds of meters away, spine scorpions began charging their tail stingers. Then came a coordinated volley. Stingers blotted the sky like a tawny dark cloud, hurtling toward the city wall. Earthy, yellow spines flew from 300 meters away, speeding toward the defenders. Beneath this onslaught, the protective light shield dimmed visibly to the naked eye. Then it popped and vanished. Whoa, that defensive shield did not hold up well. It broke after just one round of attacks. Spine scorpion stingers began raining down onto the wall. One defender was struck in the calf and fell screaming to the ground. A nearby spirit healer knelt quickly to heal him. Barely had green healing light flared when another wave of stingers forced her to drag the wounded man behind the battlements for cover. Old Sun finally drew the blade he had gripped for a long time. His face hardened as he stared down at the horde. Even as a level 50 blade master, his body trembled slightly, yet excitement burned across his features. At last, he could join the fight. Hold your positions, he roared. Spirit healers, keep everyone's health up. Ranged units, focus fire on the spine scorpions first. Everyone could see they had to eliminate these long-range attackers. Otherwise, fighting atop the wall would become nearly impossible. Fighting while constantly dodging incoming stingers meant every hit could leave you grievously wounded or dead. This battle was brutal, yet defensive strength on the wall had doubled. Jiang Sun sat upon Lingyu's swing. Lingyu's feather blade domain unfolded around them. Countless spinning feather blades hovered all about, forming a protective barrier. From time to time, incoming stingers were deflected away by the whirling blades. He scanned the battlefield below, formulating a battle plan. Iron Ball could charge in, yet against level 60 elite hyenas with 110,000 attack power, Iron Ball's 5,000 odd defense would not hold for long. Though the protective shield was gone, the city wall itself remained sturdy. After repeated blows from the rolling stone worms, the wall still stood firm. The top priority was to take out the long-range spine scorpions. He glanced over at the one-eyed little fishman behind him. After its promotion, Salted Fish had grown even more apathetic. Even amid such fierce combat, it showed little interest, quietly perching on Jiang Sun's shoulder. Without an order, it might well have fallen asleep. Jiang Sun flicked its small head. Wake up. Time to work. Salted Fish opened its single eye and glared at him indignantly. Head toward the spine scorpion position. Unleash your plumage and heal Iron Ball at full power. You two head outside the city. Salted Fish stretched out its stubby little hand and pointed toward the spine scorpions 300 meters away. Over there. Jiang Sun nodded. Salted Fish flew behind Iron Ball and poked the iron doll with its chubby palm. Let's go. Your lady sets forth. Everyone out of the way. With that shout, the two creatures shot forward as streaks of light toward the outside of the city. The instant they set off, Salted Fish activated its domain. No dazzling light effects, no deafening roars. Only a faint, pale yellow radiance spread outward from its body, easy to miss if you were not paying close attention. Moisture in the air rapidly dissipated. Where Salted Fish passed, the air turned bone dry, as if all humidity had been siphoned away. The scorched, dry domain was fully unleashed. The first to suffer were the hyenas charging at the front lines. Their strides stuttered noticeably. Their fur dried and flaked. Their movements grew visibly sluggish. The scorched dry domain, radius 50 meters. Enemy units within the domain suffer wither damage equal to 0.5 times the caster's attack power each second. Every 5 instances of wither damage stacks 1 layer of dehydration, reducing the target's movement and casting speed by 5%. Stacks without limit. Salted Fish's attack power stood at 2,820, dealing 1,410 points of wither damage every second. Against level 55 ordinary hyenas with 40,000 health, the damage alone was not overwhelming. The real threat lay in dehydration. 3 seconds inside the domain, the first stack of dehydration kicked in, slowing movement by 5%. Barely noticeable. 5 seconds later, a second stack brought it to 10%. A few more steps, and a third stack hit 15%. Stacks piled endlessly, with no upper cap. The hyenas' charge slowed dramatically. By the time they reached the base of the wall, the fastest among them carried 5 or 6 stacks of dehydration. They moved as though wading through mud. Once capable of scrambling up cracks in 2 bounds, they now scrabbled at the stone bricks, struggling to climb. Defenders in 3rd Squad sector stared in shock. What had happened to these monsters? Why had they slowed so drastically? Seizing the chance, they unleashed their attacks and cut them down. Having activated plumage, Salted Fish drifted through the air, its body turning semi-transparent, as if existing in another dimension. Monsters attacked Iron Ball or the city wall, yet none perceived Salted Fish. Unable even to notice it, they could not strike it down. Salted Fish drifted lazily about, fulfilling its role with minimal effort. Ling Yu's power surged. Feather blades rained down on the monsters below, cleaving foes in 2. Some fell with 1 strike, others required 2. While maintaining its defensive feather blade domain, it unleashed scattered volleys into densely packed monster hordes. Showers of feather blades cut through the monsters, throwing them into chaos. Ding! You have slain a ridge hyena. Gain plus 100 experience, plus 1 copper coin, plus 1 seal point. Kill notifications flooded the screen. Experience was heavily divided among party members. Seal points, however, belonged entirely to the killer, granting plus 1 per kill. Jiang Sun kept applying seals to every monster he spotted, so his seal points climbed rapidly. Salted Fish floated beside Iron Ball's head and pointed its stubby hand toward the spined scorpion encampment. Over there. Charge onward. Ignoring the slowed hyenas and rolling stone worms behind them, they advanced with the domain sweeping over all foes in their path toward the distant enemy position. Growing annoyed by foes that could not be felled in one blow, the small iron doll spotted an elite ridge hyena and shot straight for its forehead. Seeing the tiny object darting toward it, the elite ridge hyena mistook it for some trivial pest. It sneered and reached out to crush it. Iron Ball was no longer the simple-minded doll it had once been. It swelled to 100 times its original size in an instant. Towering far larger than the elite ridge hyena, it plummeted down from above. The ridge hyena panicked. What sort of trick was this? It whimpered in shock. It was merely an elite monster. Did it deserve such overwhelming force? Iron Ball paid it no heed. The enormous golden, glowing iron sphere crashed down. The elite ridge hyena did not even get to scream before it was crushed into pulp. Jiang Sun grinned watching the scene. He wondered what sort of psychological trauma that elite monster had endured. At its enlarged size, Iron Ball stood 20 meters tall, a steel giant smashing through monster ranks as it charged toward the spined scorpion encampment. Lesser monsters in its path were either sent flying or crushed to pieces. Salted Fish's scorched, dry domain traveled with it, washing over every creature along the route. Hyenas within the domain slowed further as dehydration stacked higher and higher. By the time they neared the wall, they moved with agonizing slowness. 300 meters away, Directly before 3rd Squad lay the Spine Scorpion battle line. Hundreds of them stood in orderly rows, their stingers twitching as they prepared for another volley. When still 10 meters from the encampment, Iron Ball leaped 50 to 60 meters into the air and crashed heavily into the heart of the Spine Scorpion formation. Iron Wall Shock Domain activated instantly. Shockwaves rippled outward. Each wave carried a 1.5 times damage multiplier, dealing nearly 6,000 points of damage to every Spine Scorpion caught in its radius. Elite Spine Scorpions reacted immediately, twisting their stingers toward Iron Ball. Clangs echoed as poison stingers bounced off its iron shell, leaving faint white marks. Yet elite attack power was formidable. Each strike drained Iron Ball's health bar rapidly. Indestructible Body triggered, restoring its health, though not nearly fast enough on its own. Salted Fish floated behind, snapped its stubby fingers. Withering Blood Revival activated. Green light wrapped around Iron Ball, refilling its health bar completely in an instant. Salted Fish's terrifying Scorched, Dry Domain spanned 50 meters in radius, covering dozens of monsters at a time. Each foe suffered more than 1,000 points of damage per second, converted into healing power for Salted Fish. Healing output reached at least 45,000 points every second. Iron Ball's total health was only 35,000. Healing output far exceeded its maximum health pool. With this ability, as long as Iron Ball avoided one-hit kills, it remained almost perpetually at full health. Jiang Sun watched the green healing light swirl around Iron Ball and thought it wasteful. If excess healing could generate shields, the protection would be immense. Surplus healing drifted away as scattered green motes. Enemies bleed, and allies heal. Turning foes' very lives into your own sustenance felt incredibly satisfying. Iron Ball glanced at the glowing green light enveloping it, then locked eyes with the elite Spine Scorpion before it. Its jagged saw like jaws parted. Bring it on. Let us see who hits harder. It paid no mind to the eerie green light shrouding its body. Elite poison stingers struck its shell again and again, leaving white scratches. Health dropped, only to refill instantly, drop, and refill again. Iron Ball cycled Iron Wall Shock Domain, sending shockwaves outward while stacking 5 layers of Earth Resonance. Earth Resonance stacked quickly. Once 5 layers were reached, Earth Resonance Rupture activated. Boom. Every monster within 15 meters of Iron Ball was hurled into the air, stunned for 2 full seconds. The damage was devastating. 6 times attack power as unmitigated true damage. Ordinary Spine Scorpions were torn apart mid-air, blood spraying outward to paint a gruesome crimson arc across the sky. Level 60 Spine Scorpions were reduced to near death. Only the elite Spine Scorpion endured. As a level 60 elite template monster with 170,000 health, it lost merely 30,000 health points from the blast. Iron Ball pulled itself upright and unleashed Mountain Shatter Strike. Clangs rang out as blows landed. Iron Ball alternated between Iron Wall Shock Domain to clear minor foes and heavy strikes against the elite. Whenever new swarms closed in, it unleashed Shock Domain once more. Salted Fish grew bored, watching Iron Ball's rampage. It propped its one-eyed head up with its small hand, thoroughly entertained. With plumage active, it needed only to sustain Iron Ball's healing, truly living up to its name. Its evolved abilities let it contribute massive healing and damage with minimal effort. Jiang Sun could hardly complain. In under 10 minutes, every Spine Scorpion before 3rd Squad's position lay dead. That section's long-range fire fell silent. Defenders on the wall finally gained breathing room. Yet the southern wall stretched far. Spine Scorpions in other sectors continued firing. Having cleared this position, Iron Ball and Salted Fish headed back toward the wall, slaying monsters along the way. Jiang Sun remained seated on Ling Yu's swinging platform. A middle-aged man in rock guard uniform hurried over to 3rd Squad section. He called upward to Jiang Sun. Are you the summoner of those 2 creatures out there? I am. Orders from the city, Defense Commander. Take your summons and clear out every last Spine Scorpion along the southern wall. Those long-range attackers pose too great a threat to our defenders. The man spoke rapidly. That iron construct and that domain, wielding fish outperform an entire combat squadron. Stop loitering and move out. Jiang Sun opened his mouth, glancing toward distant Spine Scorpion emplacements still firing, then at Iron Ball smashing foes below. Loitering? He was merely swinging. He drew a deep breath and relayed his orders mentally. Iron Ball, Salted Fish. Head east along the wall. Eliminate every Spine Scorpion position you encounter. Iron Ball lifted its head from heaps of hyena corpses, shook green ichor from its hands, and charged toward the eastern spine scorpion lines. It obeyed orders without hesitation. One foe was as good as another. Iron Ball delighted in smashing monsters. Salted Fish floated beside its head. This way? Very well. Your lady shall lead. The pair advanced east beneath the city wall. The scorched, dry domain rolled onward, silencing spine scorpion emplacements one after another. The thunder of Iron Ball's footsteps mixed with the crunch of scorpion carapaces, forming a moving line of death. Behind them stretched a grisly trail of mangled bodies and spilled blood, a grim path carved through the horde. The two fought their way repeatedly through monster swarms. This feat was made possible by Iron Ball's stacked defense, reaching 5,806 points, paired with Salted Fish's overwhelming healing output. On the wall, Old Sun, the spirit healer, and other third squad members stared at Jiang Sun, as if witnessing something unnatural. Two summons alone tore through monster hordes. Who knew what power resided within the companion beside him? Some wondered whether Ling Yu was merely for show. If Ling Yu had heard those thoughts, feather blades would have pierced them through and through. After Iron Ball crushed another elite spine scorpion, Salted Fish tapped its hard iron skull and pointed toward another direction. The largest boss monster of this siege, the rock, armored giant scorpion, stood there. It had remained stationary until now. Now its gaze locked onto Iron Ball and Salted Fish. It began to advance, step by heavy step. The ground shook with every stride. When that colossal figure stirred in the center of the battlefield, Jiang Sun noticed immediately. What is it doing? Coming to join the fight personally. Old Sun chopped down a ridge hyena scaling the wall and glanced back toward Jiang Sun. He thought, can't you see it is heading straight for your summons? It is targeting your creatures. Be careful. Its attack power hits 20,000. With a 3.0 back strike multiplier, it can deal over 70,000 damage in one blow. Your summons could be killed instantly. That attack value was terrifying. Iron Ball held only 38,000 health. Even with damage reduction from defense, a single blow would wipe it out. As Jiang Sun rushed through calculations, the rock, armored giant scorpion's tail hummed with energy. Its stinger shot forth, streaking toward Iron Ball. It moved far too fast for Iron Ball to dodge. A sickly, green trail cut through the air, aimed straight at Iron Ball's chest. That strike would obliterate Iron Ball. The rock, armored giant scorpion understood full well. If Iron Ball and Salted Fish wiped out all long-range units, the siege would collapse. So it targeted them directly. Thankfully, the summoning bond between Jiang Sun and Iron Ball reacted instantly. With a thought, Iron Ball vanished right before the stinger connected. The stinger kept its momentum, slamming deep into the earth and detonating violently. All nearby monsters were blown to bits. The scorpion cared nothing for its own allies. Jiang Sun's heart hammered. Cold sweat trickled down his back. By a fraction of a second, Iron Ball had narrowly avoided death. Salted Fish hovered where it had been. It stared at the giant scorpion far away, then at Iron Ball's empty spot, then at the huge crater in the ground. Its single eye blinked. What just happened? Had it been abandoned? It had not escaped yet. Thanks to Salted Fish's passive ability lethargy, it never drew the giant scorpion's attention. The monster completely ignored it. The rock, armored giant scorpion's gaze shifted toward the city wall, where Iron Ball had reappeared. Salted Fish raced toward the wall as fast as it could, diving into Ling Yu's feather blade domain. It huddled behind Jiang Sun's shoulder, peeking out with only half its face exposed. This guy's getting more and more skittish. No one's even attacking you, so why are you running? That brute fights dirty. Doesn't even give a warning before striking. Lucky for me I've got my low protection, or I would have ended up hurt too. Hey Jiang Sun, you're slacking. Why'd you only summon the Iron Ball back and leave me hanging out here to fend for myself? Hearing this, Jiang Sun actually felt a twinge of guilt. In the heat of the moment, he'd only remembered recalling the Iron Ball. He gently patted its one-eyed fish head to soothe it. The rock, armored giant scorpion pulled its stinger free from the ground and slowly turned toward the city wall. Its horrendous jaws let out repeated roars. It was clearly furious that its strike had failed to kill the Iron Ball. It was enraged. Its gaze swept across the battlefield, past the charging hyenas and rolling bugs, and locked onto Jiang Sun atop the city wall. A chill ran down Jiang Sun's spine, and a tingly sensation spread across his lower back. Being targeted by a level 75 boss brought an unbearably sharp sense of dread. It was primal oppression. The gap in stats and level was enormous, like a defenseless little mouse being fixed by a powerful, menacing cat. Just then, a figure leaped down from the wall, followed by several others. It was Lei Meng. Leave this big brute to us. Keep holding the wall. My fists have been itching for a fight anyway. The bare-chested strongman from the Bloodthorn squad, a second order fist fighter, wore a silver fist gauntlet that glinted coldly in the firelight. He had finally tossed aside the half-dried meat jerky he'd been eating and jumped down from the wall with unwavering resolve. 7 or 8 fighters trailed behind him, shield bearers, spearmen, and an archer. The archer remained on the wall with bow fully drawn, aiming straight at the armored giant scorpion. All of them appeared to be second-order professionals. They had finally joined the fray. Lei Ming crashed onto the ground, stone and dust exploding outward under his feet. He launched himself forward and closed the distance to the giant scorpion in an instant. Mid-air, he shouted toward the wall, "We'll handle this monster. Keep sending your summons to clear out the stinger, scorpions." Jiang Sun opened his mouth, inwardly thinking, "You've got a full team of second-order fighters with solid gear. Can't you take down a first-order boss on your own?" Jiang Sun was being unfair to Lei Ming. This boss monster was terrifyingly powerful. Most second-order professionals only had 50 to 60,000 health points. Even well-equipped tier 1s topped out at roughly 100,000. An attack output of 40 to 50,000 already marked someone as exceptional talent. While they could eventually kill the boss, a single poison sting would leave them in terrible shape. Without reliable spirit healers to mend their wounds, casualties were very possible. That was the cruelty of this world. Monsters vastly outmatched professionals in raw stats. Every professional advanced cautiously, step by step, constantly on guard. One misstep could mean instant death, and there would be no one to appeal to. Only an anomaly like Jiang Sun had managed to raise 3 platinum rank summons, whose health and attack values rivaled those of newly advanced second-order professionals. Lei Ming's fist slammed against the giant scorpion's pincer with a heavy thud. The monster's body shuddered. Then its massive pincer swept toward the group. Everyone dove for cover. None dared to take the blow head-on. That sweep dealt nearly 50,000 damage. A direct hit would leave anyone gravely wounded, if not dead. Jiang Sun made up his mind and sent a mental command to the iron ball, still simmering from its near-death experience. The iron ball charged off without hesitation. It swelled to over 20 meters tall and stormed toward the eastern stretch, still swarming with stinger scorpions. Jiang Sun flicked the fish creature's head to get its attention. Reluctantly, the fish girl peeked out from behind Jiang Sun's shoulder. She glanced at the ongoing fight against the giant scorpion, then at the iron ball already rushing off. "Hey, you big blockhead, wait for me. Without my heals, you're marching straight into your grave." She turned into a streak of light and darted after him, spreading her withering domain once more. For the next half hour, the iron ball and the fish girl fought their way east along the southern wall. Holding its 100-fold giant form, the iron ball waded into scorpion hordes, unleashing iron, wall shock, and mountain shatter strike. It cleared one cluster, then moved on to the next, never staying in one spot longer than 3 minutes. It was clearly still scarred from its run in with the armored giant scorpion. The fish girl kept her life, drain regeneration active non-stop. Any damage the iron ball took was instantly healed away. Floating in mid-air, she waved her tiny hands and enthusiastically directed its attacks. "Over here. Smash these ugly ones. This way. These ones reek. Crush them. And over there. They ruin my beauty sleep. Smash every last one." Free from the threat of the armored giant scorpion, the iron ball unleashed its full power. Ordinary stinger scorpions were crushed underfoot. Elite ones took several heavy blows. When iron wall shock stacked to 5 layers and triggered earth resonance fissure, swarms of minor monsters perished all at once. Lei Ming and his Bloodthorn squad traded brutal blows with the armored giant scorpion. The second-order fist fighter dealt heavy damage, cracking the scorpion's thick carapace with every punch. Yet the boss had immense health, and they could not finish it quickly. The giant scorpion was fully occupied by Lei Ming's group, and could no longer target the iron ball or the chattering fish girl. Casualties had mounted on the city wall. Most fighters were wounded, though deaths remained few for the moment. Assassins, mages, and archers with low health could be instantly killed if a scorpion's poison stinger struck a vital spot. Injured professionals were dragged off the battlefield, while fresh reinforcements stepped forward. No one fled, no one shrank back. Melee fighters, shield bearers, and warriors held fast along the outer edge of the wall, fending off charging ridge hyenas. This was Great Xia. Only through the bravery of these noble professionals could safe towns survive on the surface. They were admirable, worthy of deep respect. A temporary stalemate settled over the battlefield. Yet the tide of battle was slowly turning in favor of Blackrock Town's defenders. Some distance outside Blackrock Town, deep within a mountain cavern. Deep inside this dark cave lay a vast hollow chamber. At its center, a huge blood-colored altar hummed with power. Every time a monster was slain, wispy strands of blood, energy drifted down from the cavern ceiling and were absorbed by the altar. Even denser streams of blood, energy flowed in when professionals fell in battle. The blood-red crescent moon floating above the altar was gradually growing full. A figure wrapped entirely in crimson light knelt before the altar. Intricate blood-red patterns crawled across every inch of his exposed skin, even covering his face, lending him a terrifying, ferocious appearance. Gutu, second hall master of the blood moon cult's Greenwood branch, presided over this unholy blood sacrifice. He knelt in devout, seeming worship, his blood runes blazing bright. Not enough. Keep killing. I need more, he whispered under his breath. Above him, close to the blood crescent, a human-sized rift in space slowly took shape. Its jagged edges resembled a fresh, torn wound. Through the rift stretched a chaotic dark, red void. Within it loomed a gigantic eye formed of pure energy. Merely glimpsing that colossal form through the crack sent violent tremors through Gutu's body. He gritted his teeth, enduring the overwhelming pressure from a being alien to this world. Madness burned within him. Almost there. Almost. Outwardly, he maintained an even more devout posture, like a true devotee worshipping his deity. He could feel his talent being pushed to its limits. His S-rank talent was on the verge of transformation. New, far stronger power stirred within him. It was still not enough. To complete his ascension, he needed to summon even a fragmentary avatar of the entity beyond the rift. He opened his eyes and observed the streams of blood, energy pouring toward the altar. Then he closed his eyes again and quickened the pace of his chants. Blood, energy flowed faster and faster. The writhing rift widened, and the otherworldly pressure grew more tangible by the second. On Blackrock Town's southern-eastern wall section, the iron ball smashed the last elite stinger, Scorpion. Silence fell over the surroundings. Every stinger, Scorpion outside the 5-kilometer stretch of southern wall had been eliminated. By the iron ball and the fish girl, aided heavily by area of effect strikes from the wall, mounted ranged fighters. Without their help, the two would have been completely exhausted. Standing amid piles of scorpion corpses, the iron ball shrank back to its normal size, covered in green monster bodily fluids. It shook itself clean, then charged straight into the hordes of rock, ridge hyenas still assaulting the wall. Jiang Sun breathed a sigh of relief. With the ranged threat scorpions gone, the defenders on the wall could focus fully on their attacks. He took the chance to open his system panel. The number in his experience pool stunned him. Experience earned from idling in Anyang Town and from the first wave of rock, shard weasels had already been spent leveling up the fish girl. This second wave of hyenas and stinger, scorpions consisted almost entirely of monsters 5 or more levels above him, granting a full 200% experience bonus per kill. Most of the experience was divided among party members, but the sheer volume of slain enemies added up rapidly. His universal experience pool displayed a number that made his heart race. Universal experience pool 134,200. Over 134,000. He had accumulated this much in such a short span. A grin spread across Jiang Sun's face. He checked his seal, mark points next. They had also grown impressively. Whenever his summons landed a blow, they automatically applied seal marks. Every kill by a summoned creature granted +1 seal mark point. Additionally, Jiang Sun had actively marked many monsters across the battlefield. Points were awarded even when other fighters killed marked foes. Alongside bonus attribute points, multiple gains had arrived all at once. Seal mark points 10480/10,000. He had gained over 1,000 new seal mark points in mere moments. Attribute points gained: Constitution +21, Strength +18, Agility +12, Intelligence +22. Nearly 70 total attribute points. Jiang Sun's grin widened even further. Then a new system prompt popped up, filling him with joy. Fourth summon slot unlocked. Summon now? Jiang Sun drew a deep breath. It was time to call forth his fourth summoned creature. Yet hesitation held him back. He was only a first-order summoner. Most first-order summoners could control at most 2 summons. While he already had 3, If he summoned a fourth right out on the wall, people might view him as some sort of freak. Summoner. Guild experts might even want to dissect him for study. He could make excuses for the third summon using skill, proficiency. But how would he explain a fourth? He frowned, troubled. And summoning was far too random. Why was there no mechanic to tame wild monsters? Find a promising creature, form a contract, raise it gradually. That would be perfect. He silently cursed the system designer every time the thought crossed his mind. The battle had raged non-stop through most of the night, continuing from the previous evening. Wall, defense teams rotated shifts. Those pulled back did not leave the wall entirely, resting just behind the fresh combatants. With the Stinger, Scorpion threat removed, fighting on the wall grew less deadly. Charging monsters were intercepted by melee fighters. Monster density dropped noticeably across the third squad sector and adjacent squad positions. Still, endless swarms continued to pour in from both flanks. Distant thunderous booms echoed non-stop. The ongoing clash between Lei Meng's group and the Rock, armored giant Scorpion. Occasional shouts were swallowed by the din of warfare. The second Order fighters' battle produced immense commotion. True to his name, Lei Meng fought with ferocious power. Supported by Spirit, Healer's constant healing, he traded blow for blow with the giant Scorpion. When its massive pincer crashed down, Lei Meng caught the strike bare, handed behind his silver gauntlets. Jiang Sun watched, stirred by the scene. Every young man dreamed of such brutal, honest two-hand combat. Fighting around his section of the wall remained fierce. Rock, Ridge hyenas surged endlessly toward the fortifications. Ranged fighters mowed down wave after wave, yet more kept coming. Many wounded lay within the wall. Light-injured fighters recovered under spirit healer magic. Gravely wounded survivors lay in agony. Though their wounds were being stabilized by healing arts, their injuries remained horrific. Lin Xiaoyan knelt beside one casualty, her healing light flickering on and off as she tended to the wounded one after another. Her technique was steady, yet her face had turned deathly pale. Her mana was completely depleted. Her lips were colorless, sweat dripped down her forehead, and damp strands of hair clung to her skin. The Iron Ball and Fish Girl continued their flawless teamwork. The Fish Girl activated her withering aura and kept the Iron Ball healed. The Iron Ball charged recklessly, smashing every foe in its path. Smash, smash, smash. Jiang Sun sat upon Plumfeather's swing, deep in thought about his fourth summon. Why not summon now? He might get an incredibly powerful combat beast. His previous summons had seemed unpromising at first, but after being fed large amounts of universal experience, they had all grown into capable fighters. If people asked, he would blame it on his special talent. Every professional kept a few secrets of their own. No need to search for a secluded spot. He would summon right here on the swing. Everyone else was occupied with combat. Aside from marking foes, he had some spare time. All right, summon. Gods of all realms, bless me with good luck. Summon art, activate. Brilliant light coalesced in front of Jiang Sun. When the radiance faded, a small figure stood before him. A pitch-black kitten had materialized out of thin air. Its pupils were vertical and golden. Its fur was deep black shot through with faint dark red highlights. A small chunk was missing from one ear, as if bitten off by another beast. A golden pupil mystic cat. Exactly the breed Jiang Sun had known in his past life. Folklore said such cats brought good fortune to their masters. Had he gotten incredibly lucky this time? Sensing their summoner bond, the kitten spotted Jiang Sun and leaped straight into his arms. Jiang Sun stroked its soft, sleek fur from head to tail. The black kitten purred contentedly in his embrace and occasionally licked his palm with its tiny tongue. This was wonderful. Even if this summon lacked combat power, it was already worth it. Petting it every day would lift his spirits. Jiang Sun hurried to open its status panel. Fate Cat, Hajime, Silver Rank 0, LV.1, Health, 2600, Attack, 300, Defense, 350. Skill 1. Invisibility Hajime turns invisible. Attacking cancels invisibility. Cooldown, 1 minute. Skill 2. Cat Backstab from Stealth. Hajime sneaks up on enemies and strikes from behind, dealing times 3.0 attack value damaged. Skill 3. Fortune Teleport Hajime senses nearby fateful opportunities or major event locations. Once locked, it tears open a portal to send its summoner there. A return anchor remains after portal closure, allowing Hajime to bring its master back at any time. Current sensing radius, 500 meters. The instant Jiang Sun finished reading its stats, Hajime, who had been resting peacefully in his lap, suddenly stiffened. It seemed to be sensing something. Its pupils narrowed to thin slits, and its ears twitched back and forth. Jiang Sun stared, wondering what was happening. Before he could react, his vision went black. His body was torn away from Plumfeather's swing. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself inside a cavern. Right in front of him hung the blood-colored altar's blood moon. Thick metallicerin-smelling blood scent filled his nostrils, mixed with an otherworldly aura. That aura wrapped around Jiang Sun, heavy and oppressive, triggering an instinctive urge to flee. Where on earth was this place? One moment he'd been sitting safely on the wall watching the battle. The next he was in this grim, horrifying cavern. He looked around. This was a huge underground chamber. Dead red rock formed the central altar, covered in densely packed glowing runes. The runes flickered, as if blood flowed beneath their surfaces. A blood-red full moon hovered above the altar, rotating slowly. Just gazing at it made Jiang Sun feel sick. Crimson vein-like patterns spread from the altar across every wall and floor of the cavern. High overhead, a writhing rift tore through space. Its jagged edges resembled a raw wound, and it grew larger every second. Beyond the rift stretched endless dark red void. Floating within that void was a colossal eye made of pure energy, a single swirling mass of dark red light staring fixedly through the crack. Goosebumps rose all over Jiang Sun's skin. Had some powerful entity dragged him here to devour him? Why pick a weak little summoner like him? Wouldn't Lei Meng, with his strong physique, make a far better target? He glanced behind him. A man knelt before the altar. His skin was covered entirely in those blood-red patterns, even across his face. Circling the altar knelt robed cultists in black garments, wearing masks carved with the symbol of the blood moon. Every one of them stared at Jiang Sun in utter shock, as if gazing at an intruder who had appeared out of nowhere. Jiang Sun thought to himself, "You're the villains here. Why are you staring at me like I'm the intruder?" The brutal fighting on the city wall continued. Unnoticed by everyone present, strange, unnatural changes unfolded. Where the sun ought to rise, a moon had silently appeared. At first, it was silvery white, a full moon climbing slowly above the eastern horizon, almost as if celebrating the defenders' impending victory. Bit by bit, it turned blood red. No one noticed at first. Smoke and fire blotted out much of the night sky. Nobody had spare attention to glance upward. As time passed, blood-red moonlight bathed the whole night landscape. Now the professionals could not fail to notice it. Someone shouted out loud, "Look over there. The moon is rising, but why is it red?" More and more people noticed this amid the fighting. A blood-red moon hung in the eastern sky, clearly a bad omen. No one knew what it meant. Yet everyone's heart skipped a beat. Old Sun sliced apart the head of a ridge hyena that had just poked its head out below the city wall. Blood splattered all over his face. He wiped his face and spat out bits of flesh that had flown into his mouth. He glanced up at the sky. What was going on? Had his eyes been blurred by blood? Then he looked back at the members of the third squad. All the other team members were present. Though some bore wounds, none were seriously injured. Only one figure was missing from the swing. Ling Yu sat there, but Jiang Sun was no longer in her arms. He looked left and right, yet could not spot Jiang Sun anywhere. Old Sun shouted twice, but got no reply. He walked over and asked Ling Yu, "Where is your master?" Ling Yu said nothing. Her gaze remained fixed on a spot behind the battlefield. Through the bond between summoner and summoned creature, she knew her master was over there. Still, if Jiang Sun did not call for her, she could not go to him on her own. Old Sun frowned. This kid really liked taking risks. He was just a fragile summoner. Where could he have gone? But salted fish, Iron Ball, and Ling Yu were all unharmed. That meant Jiang Sun was probably still alive. If Jiang Sun had died, all his summoned creatures would have vanished. Since these three were fine, Jiang Sun was likely in no mortal danger. There was nothing he could do even if he wanted to help. No one knew exactly where Jiang Sun had wandered off to. Lin Xiaoya ran over at that moment. She had just stood up beside another wounded soldier, the glow of her healing art still not completely faded from her hands. When she heard Jiang Sun was missing, she froze, her face filled with worry. Could this have something to do with the Red Moon? What connection could there be? Would a Red Moon kidnap a summoner? If it really is related to the Red Moon, there is nothing we can do. We can only hope the boy has good fortune. Old Sun muttered in reply to Lin Xiaoya. Inside the cave holding the huge crimson altar, Gutu knelt before the altar. Blood patterns all over his body blazed with piercing brightness. His prayers grew more impassioned and fervent. His voice rose from whispers to chants, then to roars. As the blood-red moon above the altar grew complete, a blurry figure slowly coalesced in front of the altar. The blood moon seemed to resonate with the moon hanging in the sky, its brightness shifting. Gutu was overjoyed. Though he prayed aloud, his heart rejoiced. How long had he waited for this moment? He had waited ever since he had been dispatched to Aoki City. As the second Hall Master of the Blood Moon Cult's Aoki City branch, his title sounded impressive. Yet he knew the higher-ups looked at him strangely, as if he were some useless outcast banished to a remote small city. What he lacked was not strength. What he lacked was opportunity. And now opportunity stood right before him. He had arranged this massive monster siege, expending countless resources, all for the sake of summoning the divine avatar of their god. According to how their god treated the creatures of this world, summon me, and you shall receive rewards. Could he seize this chance to elevate his talent? Raise his strength talent to S rank? If he succeeded, his power would surge. Then he could break through to the 4th rank. No longer would he merely be second Hall Master. He would make all those who had looked down on him bow before him. The final word of his prayer echoed out. The blood-red full moon suddenly shrank, then exploded. A blood-colored ripple spread outward from its center, sweeping across the cave, over the mountain, and farther beyond. All the blood energy streamed like swallows returning to their nests, surging toward the spatial rift and vanishing in an instant. The being beyond the rift had responded. A giant arm condensed from pure blood light stretched out through the crack. Its fingers were long and slender. It braced against the edges of the rift and tore it slowly wider. The fissure doubled in size. An eye looked through, fixing its gaze upon the small worshipper kneeling on the ground performing the blood sacrifice. Gutu trembled violently, overcome with wild ecstasy. It was finally happening. He bowed low, pressing his forehead against the ground, his voice shaking. Your devout follower Gutu greets your divine descent. A voice echoed out of the void rift. Deep, it seemed to come from all directions at once. The faithful shall receive their reward. Then a drop of golden blood drifted out from the rift. It hung suspended in midair, radiating soft golden light. The drop was small, yet the energy it contained made the air inside the cave tremble. The black-robed believers surrounding the altar all prostrated themselves, shaking like sieves. Gutu lifted his head, staring fixedly at the drop of divine golden blood. He could feel his talent roaring within him. This was it. He had heard that the leader of the Blood Moon cult had received divine blood many times, growing into a great 8th-order demigod. This single drop would bring about his transformation. The blood drifted slowly toward him. 1 meter, half a meter. Gutu stretched out his hand, ready to seize the opportunity that would make him powerful. Jiang Sun was checking Hachimi's status panel. Chance Cat, Hachimi Silver 0 star, LV.1 HP, 2600 ATK, 300 DF, 350. Skill 1, Invisibility. Hachimi turns invisible upon activating the skill. Invisibility ends after attacking. Cooldown, 1 minute. Skill 2, Cat Backstab. Hachimi sneaks up on enemies while invisible and strikes from behind, dealing 300% attack damage. Skill 3, Lucky Teleport. Hachimi can sense locations of imminent opportunities or major events within a certain range. After locking onto a target, it tears open a portal to send its summoner there. Once the portal closes, a return anchor point remains. Hachimi may teleport its master back at any time. Current sensing range for opportunities and major events, 500 meters. Jiang Sun had just opened the description for the 3rd skill and had not finished reading its full effects when his vision suddenly blacked out and his body felt weightless. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer on the swing. He stood inside a vast underground chamber. He had appeared exactly between Gutu and the void rift. Some incomprehensible being beyond the crack was gazing straight at him. What on earth? I was just reading the status panel. How did I end up here? Then he spotted the drop of golden blood. It floated right in front of him, practically within reach. Sacred golden light poured from it, brimming with immense power and potential. It drifted straight toward him. Jiang Sun's mind raced. What was this thing? So bright. Could he consume it? Why was it drifting toward him? A precious reward had landed right in front of him. Help! This was urgent. Should he eat it? It looked edible. He had a lock-and-death survival mechanic, so he might as well give it a try. He opened his mouth and took a big bite, swallowing it whole. It tasted rather plain, almost flavorless. Gutu knelt before the altar, head bowed, hand outstretched, waiting quietly for the divine blood. He had gambled everything on this monster horde, all for this very drop of blood. But as he waited, he sensed something wrong. The atmosphere had shifted. What was happening? He raised his head and witnessed a scene that filled him with shock. A complete stranger had swallowed the divine blood he had fought so hard to obtain. Where had this boy come from? That was his first thought. His second thought was rage. That was my divine blood. Spit it out. Ever since he had been sent to Aoki City, he had waited for this day. Then this youth had popped out of nowhere between him and the void rift. Opened his mouth. and gulped down the divine blood. Gutu's hand froze midair. For a moment his mind went blank. His eyes turned bloodshot, and his hair reddened with unbridled fury. Die? Spit out my divine blood. Jiang Sun had barely finished swallowing the blood when his chest began to burn. The heat intensified, like fire exploding inside his ribcage. Gutu stared at him, his voice a hoarse growl forced out from his throat. You ate it? Jiang Sun parted his lips. He wanted to offer some sort of explanation, but there was not much to say. He had eaten it, and he could not spit it back out. Jiang Sun scratched his head. Would you believe me if I said I was just passing by? Gutu gave no reply. The blood patterns across his body flared bright red. He lifted his palm. A beam of bloodlight shot forth. It moved far too fast for Jiang Sun to dodge. The pale gold life protection shield flared across his skin. The membrane shattered the instant it made contact with the blood-colored energy beam. It had not lasted even half a second. More than 21,000 shield points had been reduced to nothing by Gutu's furious strike, as fragile as paper. The residual energy pierced through the broken shield and slammed into Jiang Sun's chest. Jiang Sun felt as though he had been hit by a speeding locomotive. He flew backward and crashed hard against the cave stone wall. Uffed. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. He glanced down at his status panel. His health dropped far faster than he had expected. 1 HP. The Newcomer King title's Newcomer King's blessing activated. The healthlock mechanic kicked in, freezing his health at 1 HP. Jiang Sun leaned against the stone wall. Burning pain in his chest made speech nearly impossible. This damage was absurd. More than 20,000 shield points plus several thousand health points had been wiped out in a single blow. Just how powerful was this enemy? Why pick on a lowly summoner like him? The power of the divine blood churned inside his body. His talent entry on his status panel flashed wildly. Detected absorption of divine blood fragment. Universal experience talent is upgrading. Detected unknown anomaly, attempting correction. Your talent already possesses rule-breaking properties. Talent corrected to SS rank. 3 new traits have been unlocked. His long-standing Brank talent surged past a rank, S rank, S rank, and finally settled at SS rank. This had been completely worth it. His talent had advanced. Straight from Brank all the way to SS rank. That was an enormous gain. He forced a grin, blood trickling from the corners of his mouth. Hachimi jumped out from somewhere. Its black fur puffed up. It hissed loudly at Gutu's. Jiang Sun was speechless. Was that hiss really supposed to do anything? If that noise could deal even a scratch of damage to Gutu, he would do something ridiculous. A paw swatted down onto Hachimi's head. Hurry up and teleport me away. Can't you see your master is about to perish? The healthlock effect only lasted 2 seconds. The golden, pupiled black cat shrank its neck. It pressed its furry paw against Jiang Sun's body. In the next instant, human and cat vanished from the cave. The moment Jiang Sun teleported away, a silent fate mark embedded itself into Gutu's body. Jiang Sun's last glimpse was Gutu's blood, red eyes, and the second attack the enraged man launched. Somewhere in the void, a figure panted as it arrived, only to watch Jiang Sun vanish once more. It was Xingyao. Every single time this boy got himself into unimaginable trouble, she had sensed Jiang Sun's life force plummeting and had panicked. She had burned through secret arts to rush over from the city wall. Before she could intervene, he had already teleported away. Am I just here to chase after him? No matter how furious and frustrated Gutu grew, Jiang Sun was gone. His prize had slipped right out of his grasp. Blind with rage, Gutu unleashed attacks on everything inside the cave. The masked Blood Moon cultists around the altar bore the brunt of his wrath. All of them were slain as he vented his fury. The being beyond the spatial rift did nothing to stop him. It waited quietly, then projected an avatar through the crack. The moment its avatar manifested in this world. Within Taichu Divine City, Lu Qinzhou, who had been handling state affairs, frowned. Another evil god avatar has descended. Has anyone been dispatched to deal with it? He casually asked his secretary beside him. A war god has already set out. It is our first war god, Yin Qixia. He happened to be back in Taichu Divine City and sensed the evil god aura. He should be arriving shortly. Lu Qinzhou smiled. This evil god was truly unlucky to run into war god Yin. It would suffer greatly. As the two spoke, light flickered atop the Blackrock Town teleportation array. A tall figure materialized. 3 swords hung on his back. His hair was tied up in a top knot, giving him an ethereal, immortal bearing. The figure rose into the air the instant he appeared, flying straight toward the source of the evil god aura. Back atop Blackrock Town city wall, light flickered, and Jiang Sun reappeared upon Ling Yu's swing. Blood streamed freely from countless wounds across his body. Newcomer King's Blessing's passive healing raised his health to 50% instantly. Yet blood kept pouring out, and his health dropped rapidly once more. Lingyu was greatly alarmed. She quickly held him tight, paying no mind to the blood splattering onto her body. She stared at the gravely injured Jiang Sun, deep anxiety in her eyes. Salted fish. Heal our master with everything you have. Quick! Salted fish finally noticed its unreliable master was on the brink of death. It poured all of its blood, drawing rebirth healing power onto Jiang Sun. Green healing numbers floated above Jiang Sun's head. Lin Xiaoye ran over as well. She burned the last of her mana and cast healing arts, pouring all her effort into saving Jiang Sun. Her eyes were full of worry. Health climbed upward, only to fall back down again. A tug of war played out over his life bar. After a long while, bolstered by this massive influx of healing energy, Jiang Sun's health finally refilled completely. Old Sun stared at the blood-soaked youth, utterly confused. Where had you been? We were all defending the city wall. One moment you vanish, the next you reappear covered in blood. What exactly happened to you? Jiang Sun lay in Lingyu's arms, gasping for breath as he slowly recovered. The bleeding had stopped, and his wounds were knitting closed, yet he felt completely drained. That had been far too close. He had nearly lost his life. If Hachimi's skill had not teleported him back to their original anchor point, he would surely have died this time. Even summoning all three of his other summoned creatures would not have helped. Against that blood-soaked figure, they would all be powerless. Not to mention the terrifying being beyond the Void Rift. That existence was far beyond anything Jiang Sun could challenge right now. He looked down at the black cat curled on his stomach. Hachimi, his fourth summoned beast. Only now did he realize this little creature had teleported him straight into that cave. That third skill, Lucky Teleport. He had still been reading the skill description when everything went dark and he was thrown across space. He had stumbled right into the Blood Moon cult's sacrificial ritual. Then that drop of golden divine blood had floated right up to him. He had eaten it, and then he had nearly been killed. Thinking back, Jiang Sun grabbed Hachimi by the scruff of its neck and lifted the cat up in front of his face. Hachimi's forepaws dangled in mid-air. Its golden vertical pupils blinked, putting on an innocent look. Jiang Sun glared fiercely at it. The little black cat grew slightly sheepish under his stare. You, next time something like this happens, warn me first. Pulling stunts like this out of nowhere could get your master killed, do you understand? He had wanted to give it a good scolding, but then he thought better. If Hachimi had not teleported him there, he would never have gotten hold of that divine blood. His talent would never have risen to SSS rank. Dangerous as the experience had been, the outcome had been excellent. The cat had acted for his benefit after all. Fine. Jiang Sun pressed Hachimi against his chest and began petting it. He stroked from head to tail, rubbing its ears and the tip of its tail. Hachimi purred loudly. He kept going, rolling it over to rub its belly, then squishing its face. He still felt a little annoyed. He kept petting. Hachimi's eyes half closed. Its purr grew louder and louder. Eventually it rolled over completely, lying on its back, offering itself up for pets. Jiang Sun finally stopped once he had gotten all his frustration out. He pulled up his status panel and carefully examined his talent section. Universal Experience SSS. Rank. You may store acquired experience points to fuel enhancements. Valid enhancement targets include skill levels, skill quality, summoned beasts, equipment, and more. These enhancements carry the power of rules. Trait 1. Overlimit. May break past the original quality cap of items, skills, and other entities. Trait 2. Overlimit boon. Objects enhanced with universal experience gain a higher chance of spawning rare attributes and rare abilities. Trait 3. Origin nourishment. Universal experience may nourish foundational origins directly. Besides standard enhancement targets, it may nourish soul foundations, physical essence, raise summoned beast bloodline purity, and more. It really had jumped from B rank all the way to SSS rank, with 3 brand new traits unlocked. That made sense. Jiang Sun had always wondered why universal experience had only been rated B rank when it was already so powerful. He scrolled through his system logs and read over the correction record. Detected that you have absorbed divine blood across the ground. The talent universal experience value is leveling up. Detected an unknown error. Initiating correction. Since your talent inherently possesses the trait of breaking rules, your talent rank has been corrected to SSS rank, with 3 additional traits unlocked. Jiang Sun stared at the text for a long time. Inherent trait of breaking rules. He pondered for a moment before realizing what it meant. He could hardly blame the system for being restrictive. His original B rank talent already held the rule, breaking trait, a power that should never belong to a B-rank talent. The system had failed to correct it earlier for some unknown reason, probably confused by the initial glitch. New trait, Boundless Bounty. Anything enhanced with universal experience value gains a higher chance of acquiring rare attributes and unique abilities. This was incredibly promising. His talent now drastically boosted the odds of unlocking rare powers. The first trait seemed to have existed all along. The third trait caught his interest. It could strengthen the fundamental essence of items and summoned beasts. What exactly did that mean? No such stats appeared on his summoned beasts panels. Could it directly raise their health and attack values? If so, the prospect was remarkable. Not only could he become an overwhelming powerhouse, but his summoned beasts and equipment could reach similar heights. Jiang Sun grew increasingly satisfied. Though the ordeal had been dangerous, the outcome was favorable. Deep within the sacrificial cave of the Blood Moon cult, several bodies wearing Blood Moon masks lay scattered around the altar. Bone Butcher had vented his rage upon them. These followers had devoted themselves entirely to his cause, only to be slain without hesitation by the ruthless man. They had not stolen the divine blood, so they bore no responsibility for what happened. Perhaps that was the nature of cults. Human lives meant nothing, merely tools to unleash fury. The phantom of the evil god had fully materialized. It possessed no defined shape, merely a mass of dark crimson light vaguely resembling a human silhouette, yet towering far larger than any mortal. A blurry face surfaced within the glow, devoid of facial features. Two floating dim points of light marked where its eyes should be. Having exhausted his anger, Bone Butcher finally noticed the shift in the atmosphere. He dropped to his knees, trembling violently. After countless sacrifices and lengthy schemes, his god had descended at last. If he served the evil god faithfully, he might earn divine rewards. Another drop of divine blood would let him wield tremendous power once more. He knelt lower, ready to crawl forward and prostrate himself before the evil god. Then he sensed it. A far more terrifying aura locked onto the cavern. The pressure descended from above, drawing steadily closer and growing clearer by the second. The evil god phantom noticed immediately and tilted its form upward, as if gazing straight through thick layers of rock toward the source. Bone Butcher's pupils constricted sharply. Abandoning his posture of reverence, he rose quietly. Acting with desperate decisiveness, he edged backward while the evil god's attention remained diverted. He fled deeper into the cavern behind the altar, traveling far until he found a natural fissure and concealed himself inside. A figure bearing 3 divine swords hovered suspended above the summit of the small mountain. Clad in plain pale robes with hair tied in a top knot, 3 glowing swords hung on his back, unmistakably extraordinary artifacts. Almost imperceptibly, he grasped one of the swords in his hand. With a casual sweep, a sky-reaching sword beam crashed down. The mountain split cleanly in two. Everything inside the cavern was exposed to open air. He glanced at the evil god phantom, his expression laced with amusement, as though he had stumbled upon an entertaining toy. So you are the newly manifested evil god phantom? Is that all you amount to? He drew the second sword from his back. Without hesitation, the evil god phantom lunged toward him. Blood Moon Domain. A hemispherical realm woven entirely from crimson energy unfurled. Bloody power coalesced into countless dragon heads that charged toward Yin Qixia. Yin Qixia made no grand movements. Surge upon surge of sword chi emanated from his body, forming an impenetrable barrier around him. The dragon head slammed against the shield without leaving the slightest mark. At that moment, Yin Qixia struck. He carefully controlled the angle of his blows, avoiding lethal vital points of the phantom. The first slash severed one of the phantom's arms. The second horizontal cut cleaved off its legs. The third diagonal strike split its torso apart, steering clear of its core. Yin Qixia methodically hacked away at the entity like dissecting a helpless creature. The evil god phantom faded bit by bit. You dare call yourself an evil god? The Blood Moon cult, is it? Do you think Great Xia is a land you can invade and abandon as you please? Return once more, and I will march into your Blood Moon realm and drown your domain in blood. Truly worthy of Great Xia's war god. His strength defied belief. In less than 10 seconds, the evil god phantom was reduced to dissipating mist. Yin Qixia then struck the void rift with his sword, sealing it instantly. He sheathed his blades and surveyed the devastated altar and scattered corpses. Turning away, he departed the cavern. Lo, rank professionals defending the city walls gaped the instant Yin Qixia split the mountain with one sword strike. All hail Great Xia's war god. Great Xia's war god is invincible. Cheers erupted all around. Jiang Sun watched in shock. He had long heard rumors of the war god's prowess, yet nothing prepared him for this display. Splitting a mountain required no more effort than slicing a cucumber. He departed once the conflict ended, leaving glory behind. Jiang Sun felt a surge of admiration. This was the freedom of a sword cultivator. Hidden deep within the rocky fissure, Bone Butcher held his breath, too afraid to make a sound. He only emerged once the soul, shaking sword intent faded completely. He stood before the empty altar, shaking uncontrollably. The divine blood was gone. His god had descended, only to be obliterated. Every plan he had spent so long crafting had crumbled, costing him nearly all his resources. Yet he remained alive. As long as he lived, hope endured. One day, he would rise again and attain strength matching that sword cultivator. Bone Butcher swore bitterly. He glanced toward the direction Yan Qixia had left, then toward the sky lightening with dawn. His blood, red eyes burned with the image of the thief who had stolen his divine blood. Brat, I will hunt you down and kill you. No one steals from the Blood Moon cult and escapes unscathed. Once Yan Qixia vanished, the battle continued. Inspired by the great Xia war god's overwhelming victory, the professionals on the city wall fought with renewed vigor. Furthermore, no new monsters spawned after the evil god Phantom perished. Beyond the walls stretched a ravaged landscape trampled by the horde. Nevertheless, the surviving monsters still threw themselves relentlessly against the fortifications. The greatest threat remained the armored giant scorpion. Level 75 boss. Lei Ming and the Bloodthorn unit had been holding it back for ages, yet the beast still stood. Lei Ming was covered in wounds. Blood and mud coated his bare torso, and his fists dripped with blood from both the monster and his own injuries. Many second-tier warriors in the Bloodthorn unit bore severe wounds. Jiang Sun saw the dire situation. He ordered salted fish to divert its healing toward the beleaguered fighters. He flew closer, covering the boss with his plumes. Small green fish symbols circled above the warriors, encased in healing halos. Salted fish's healing power was formidable. Supported by its magic, the exhausted second-tier professionals regained their fighting spirit. Salted fish's parched domain spread beneath the armored giant scorpion. Stacking withering damage gnawed away at its vitality. The coordinated hunt began. Salted fish maintained its domain nonstop. Layer upon layer of dehydration slowed the scorpion's movements. Lei Ming charged into close combat, landing heavy blows that echoed with every impact. Ranged fighters atop the wall seized the opportunity, unleashing a storm of arrows and spells. The scorpion's health dwindled steadily. 60%, 50%, 30%. Dying monsters fought with wild desperation. When its health dipped below 10%, the armored giant scorpion let out a shrill screech. Its massive stinger reared upward, aimed straight at the city wall. Upon closer inspection, the target was Iron Ball. The beast harbored a grudge, having failed to kill Salted Fish earlier. It sought vengeance with its final strike. Such a desperate blow would carry devastating power. Worse still, Iron Ball stood on the wall alongside Jiang Sun and the other defenders. Jiang Sun had been observing the battle from the wall, recovering from his earlier injuries. Though his wounds had closed, his strength had not fully returned. Then he witnessed the scorpion's movement. A primal sense of danger surged through him, sending chills from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He looked up. A 2-meter, wide stinger locked onto their position, targeting Iron Ball. Jiang Sun wished Iron Ball would move away, but it was already too late to reposition. The stinger cut through the air at impossible speed. He could not react in time. At the very last instant before impact, Jiang Sun teleported Iron Ball into his secret realm. The stinger slammed into the city wall, blasting a massive crater. The force shattered the stinger into countless fragments spraying outward in all directions. Jiang Sun had no time to teleport himself before the shrapnel arrived. A pale golden Life Guardian shield flickered over his body and activated. He only possessed 7,800 health points. He was uncertain whether the shield could withstand the residual impact. Yet the debris never struck him directly. Instead, it hit Lin Xiaoya, standing right in front of him. A shard as thick as an arm pierced straight through her heart. Her health dropped to 0 instantly. One blow, instant death. More fragments clattered against Jiang Sun's shield afterward. Jiang Sun froze and caught her collapsing body. He shouted for Salted Fish to heal her, yet all efforts proved futile. Once health reached 0, no healing could bring her back. It had all happened in a split second. Lin Xiaoya. No reply. Lin Xiaoya. Her eyes remained open, fixed on him, yet all light had faded. Old Sun rushed over, knelt down, and checked her breath. His hand stilled. He turned his head and met Jiang Sun's gaze. No words were needed. A hum rang inside Jiang Sun's mind. She had stepped forward to take the shrapnel meant for him and died instantly. She was a spirit herder, a healer. She had stayed at the rear the entire battle, supporting the troops. How could she die so abruptly? His classmate of 5 years had perished right before his eyes. Her death was a consequence of his predicament. Jiang Sun's heart felt pierced by thousands of blades. Why were you so foolish? You should have stayed further back. I still had teleportation and my shield. Somehow she had ended up standing directly in front of him. He could not tell if she had acted intentionally. After tending to his injuries and seeing how weak he was, she had positioned herself before him, perhaps out of protective instinct. Regardless, she had taken the blow for him and lost her young life. The cruelty of war laid itself bare before Jiang Sun. Peace was sustained by those who endured hardship in silence. The Scorpion's final attack had unleashed terrifying power. Scanning the wall, Jiang Sun spotted 3 or 4 more fragile ranged fighters killed by stray fragments. Old Sun carefully arranged their bodies along the back of the battlement. He appeared accustomed to such work. Grief weighed heavily on his face, tears welling in his eyes. Before the siege began, they had promised each other no one would fall, that they would all return home. Victory was nearly achieved, yet misfortune had struck out of nowhere. Shortly after unleashing its last attack, Lei Ming crushed the Scorpion's skull. The colossal beast crashed to the ground. Cheers rising from the wall died away immediately. Everyone saw what had happened. Heavy losses had struck the third squad. A heavy silence fell over the defenders. Wounded warriors who had received healing from Lin Xiaoye rose one after another. They stood silently, paying their respects. No one spoke. Many understood this could one day be their own fate. Jiang Sun knelt on the stone surface, staring at the blood staining his hands. Lin Xiaoye's blood. He still could not accept that she was gone, taken in a fleeting moment. The optimistic young woman, the only healer awakened in their class this year, had died right in front of him. He wanted to speak, but his throat tightened, trapping every word. Memories resurfaced. The first time they met after the siege mobilization. She had wandered over with her squad leader, spotted him, and paused upon seeing he was a summoner. So you are the summoner? Someone in my class also chose summoner. Later, Jiang Sun shared photos of his victories in the class group chat, confirming his identity. She had come to find him afterward, pretending not to recognize him. Hey, summoner. You look just like someone from my class. Jiang Sun knew she had already figured out who he was and played along. Maybe all summoners share a natural handsomeness. Once fighting erupted, they had no further chance to talk. Not until Jiang Sun sustained heavy injuries and her sudden death. Such was the nature of regret. People failed to cherish those beside them while they lived, only drowning in sorrow after they were lost. The sun climbed fully above the horizon. Monsters beneath the walls had been cleared. Jiang Sun still knelt holding Lin Xiaoye's body, unable to process the truth. Golden sunlight washed over the battlements and the patches of dried blood on the stone. Hami hopped onto his shoulder and brushed its head gently against his cheek. Sensing its master's grief, it tucked its tail and stayed quietly by his side. Jiang Sun lost track of how long he knelt. He stirred only when a group of robed figures ascended the wall. Members of the Clear Do organization. Leading them was a middle-aged woman with a solemn expression, wearing the organization's badge on her chest. She knelt beside Lin Xiaoye's body and gently closed her eyes. At her signal, several others stepped forward, wrapped the body in white cloth, and lifted it carefully. Let's bring her home. That single sentence was the final wish of every fallen warrior. It was the only comfort left for departed souls. Jiang Sun watched as white fabric covered Lin Xiaoye's face. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He tried to say something, yet no sound came out. The woman paused as she walked past him. You knew her? Jiang Sun nodded slowly. She looked at him, sighed softly, and continued onward. The group carried Lin Xiaoye's body down the stone steps and disappeared. Jiang Sun did not know where they would take her. He dreaded the thought of breaking the news to her family. All he knew was that the cheerful girl who loved taking photos for the group chat, who kept casting healing spells even when drained of mana, was gone. He opened the class group chat, which he had neglected for a long time. Messages flooded the screen. At first, everyone discussed the beast tide. Some shared photos taken on the wall, asking if anyone was hurt. Then someone posted a picture of Lin Xiaoye, unknown who had captured it. She stood behind the battlements, holding a ball of green healing light, smiling toward the camera. A line followed the image. News from Clear Do organization. Lin Xiaoye has fallen in battle. The group fell silent for several seconds. Then messages exploded nonstop. What? That can't be. She's a spirit herder. She stayed at the rear. Does anyone have confirmed information? What exactly happened? I just messaged a friend on site. It's true. Damn. A prolonged silence followed. Someone sent a voice message, which Jiang Sun did not open. He could guess what he would hear, shouts or weeping. After a while, the class monitor posted, Lin Xiaya, rest in peace. Rest in peace. Dozens of identical replies followed. Candle emojis and praying hands filled the chat. He closed the interface. Old Sun walked over and offered him a cigarette. Jiang Sun took it and put it between his lips. Compensation for Beast Tide mobilization is calculated based on contribution points. The Rockguard Legion will process your reward and send it to you afterward. Try to come to terms with it. The battlefield is merciless. No one knows whether misfortune or tomorrow arrives first. Surviving to honor the fallen is all we can do. A complicated look crossed Old Sun's face. He clearly carried his own share of painful memories. He patted Jiang Sun's shoulder and left. Jiang Sun stared until Old Sun's figure vanished around the corner. Lei Ming approached next. His wounds had received makeshift bandages, thick gauze wrapped around his bare torso, blood seeping through the fabric. He saw Jiang Sun and forced a grin. We couldn't have held out without your summoned beast healing. That boss monster had absurd health and could regenerate too. Unbelievable, right? Jiang Sun felt numb. He almost wanted to retort that a second-tier warrior should have performed better, but he said nothing. Noticing his heavy mood, Lei Ming fell quiet for a moment and clapped him on the shoulder. Reach out to the Bloodthorn unit if you ever need assistance. If you want to join, show this token. You skip probation and become a full member directly. He pulled out an iron token carved with a thorny blood-stained pattern and pressed it into Jiang Sun's palm before departing. Jiang Sun examined the token and stored it away. He stood atop the wall, watching crews clearing the battlefield below. Monster corpses faded into light after death, yet the bodies of fallen professionals remained. Survivors reacted in different ways. Some wept, some celebrated survival, others sat motionless in daze. This was war. The sudden Beast Tide assault had arrived without warning and ended just as abruptly. Apart from Rockguard Legion troops remaining on duty, participating professionals dispersed to return home. Jiang Sun drew a deep breath and forced his emotions under control. He turned and walked toward Blackstone Town. Traders and crafters who had come to sell goods began evacuating as well. Upon reaching the teleportation array, he used the glow of its activation to conceal himself and teleported into his secret realm. He avoided the first layer, unwilling to let his mother see his devastated state. He dared not imagine how she would react if she received news of his death one day. He arrived on the 5th layer of the secret realm. Spiritual energy grew far denser here. Every breath filled his body with soothing vitality. But he was in no mood to enjoy any of it right now. He plopped down onto the floor of the empty Great Hall and summoned all 4 of his contracted beasts. Tiechio's small dark, gold figure materialized, looking much like a child who had gotten into trouble. Even now, his heart still raced with lingering fear. If the dying rock, Shell Giant Scorpion's vengeful strike had landed squarely on him, he would never have survived it. Luckily, Jiang Sun teleported him into the secret realm at the last second, letting him dodge the blow. Jiang Sun didn't blame Tiechio. What fault was there in diligently hammering away at monsters? If anyone was to blame, it was that dishonorable rock, Shell Giant Scorpion. Couldn't it just die peacefully? Why did it have to pull a stunt like that? Wait, there was another person to hold accountable. The mastermind behind this Beast Tide, Gu Tu. Just you wait. You want to get rid of me? As a man destined to become the strongest summoner, I've now set my sights on you too. If Gu Tu hadn't unleashed this Beast Tide, all those fallen professional awakeners would still be alive, and Lin Xiaoya wouldn't have perished. Jiang Sun sat on the ground, wilted like an eggplant hit by frost. His usual carefree spirit was gone. Salted fish floated in mid-air and looked him up and down. TSK. Got the wind knocked out of you. Ling Yu said nothing. She climbed down from her swing and quietly settled beside him. Hajime wriggled out from his embrace and rubbed against his palm. Jiang Sun remained dejected. It felt as though the gears of fate had barely begun to turn, yet every chain in his life had already snapped. Just then, a system notification pulled his scattered wits back slightly. Blackstone Garrison City Mission, completed mission completion rating. S. Rank mission reward settlement universal experience points. Plus 50,000 added to experience pool. Free attribute points. Plus 10 currency reward. Plus 50,000 copper coins Daxia prestige. Plus 2,000 steadfast guard contribution points. Plus 500 extra reward ranked within top 10% of Battlefield Contributors Random Skill Book ×1 stored in Backpack Black. Tier Material Pack ×1 stored in Backpack. Seeing the number listed for the currency reward made Jiang Sun happy, until he spotted the unit. Copper coins. His mood sank once more. 50,000 copper coins amounted to a mere 5 gold coins. Even the system had learned how to pull cheap tricks. If you're going to be stingy, at least don't play word games. Where on earth did it learn such tactics from shrewd merchants? It's like being offered a 0.2 yuan discount coupon, only to discover the final payout is just 20 cents. Then his gaze locked onto the most important figure. Universal Experience Pool, 234200. It had soared all the way to 230,000. Jiang Sun had never felt so wealthy. His seal points had also risen considerably. Seal points, 11600. Before he advanced salted fish, the total had been just over 10,000. Now it had climbed by more than 1,000. The work of scattering soul seals had paid off handsomely. He had scattered seals non-stop throughout the beast tide until his hands nearly cramped. Combined with the automatic soul seals gained from kills by his contracted beasts, he had earned nearly 1,000 extra points. Soul Seal Plunder triggered, plus 18 stamina, plus 13 strength, plus 21 agility, plus 17 intelligence. The attribute gains were solid. Every little bit added up. Sooner or later, he would become a statistical monster. Jiang Sun continued reading the system settlement details. There were extra rewards? Ranking within the top 10% of battlefield contributors? Not bad. Out of more than 100,000 professional awakeners, he had made it into the top 10%. Summoner truly was a powerful class, he thought smugly. Someone shameless might point out that all the contributions belonged to his contracted beasts. He hadn't landed a single basic attack himself. Personal total damage, 0. Contracted beast damage, 100%. Still, he was satisfied. His Daxiao prestige had jumped by 2,000 points, and he had gained 500 steadfast guard contribution points. He had heard about both resources before. High Daxiao prestige granted various conveniences in cities across the realm. More importantly, anyone hoping to enter official leadership positions needed sufficient Daxiao prestige. As for steadfast guard contribution points, they were even more valuable. They could be exchanged with the steadfast guard for all manner of goods, skill books, equipment, materials, and more. He wouldn't open the skill book or material pack just yet. He was feeling a little more like himself now. It was time for a hearty meal to soothe his wounded heart. Eat when hungry, sleep when tired. Keep a carefree heart, and live a long life. Yeah, nothing came before food. Jiang Sun retrieved a new set of clothes from his system backpack and changed, then teleported to the first level of the secret realm. The changes on the first level exceeded his expectations. The distant spirit farmland had all been plowed, with neat rows of ridges stretching onward. Tender young yuan rice seedlings had just poked through the soil, their slender leaves swaying gently in the breeze. The gurgle of running water came from the yuan energy well. Jiang Sun walked over and saw Granny Rong leading a group of young Ronk tribesfolk drawing water. The well itself was not large, but its surface shimmered with faint radiance. Standing close, he could feel warm, vital energy rising from the water. The yuan energy water seemed endless, readily available whenever drawn. This water is extraordinary, brimming with vital energy. Granny Rong hauled up a bucket and handed it to one of the youths before picking up another empty bucket. Anything watered with it grows far faster. 100 times better than the river and spring water we used before. Jiang Sun thought to himself, naturally. Anything produced by the system is top tier. For once, he was willing to praise the Guanlan game system. Jiang Sun squatted beside the well and dipped his hand into the water. It felt cool to the touch, and faint vital energy crept up his fingertips, bringing a pleasant tingling sensation. Curiosity stirred in him. How fast do plants grow here? Granny Rong gestured toward the distance. Go see for yourself. The yuan sculpt trees are growing remarkably quickly. Jiang Sun followed her gaze and froze. Behind the yuan energy well stood Uncle Ashing's small wooden cabin. Beyond the cabin stretched an open flat area. Further back, across a gentle slope, stood a dense stand of neatly arranged yuan sculpt trees, resembling a primitive forest laid out with deliberate grace. He counted roughly 30 to 40 trees that had already grown as tall as 3 or 4 stories, each wide enough that 2 adults' linking arms could barely encircle the trunk. Their straight, smooth trunks glowed with a pale ivory luster, topped by layered canopies dominated by fresh green. Strangely enough, the crowns shimmered with a faint golden halo beneath the sunlight. Dozens more younger trees were shooting upward rapidly, scattered evenly across the slope as if carefully planned. Each tree's trunk swelled outward roughly 3 meters above the ground to form an oval chamber shaped like a house, with a massive canopy rising above. A gap of roughly 10 meters separated each tree. Beneath the tree chambers, branches had woven naturally into staircases, built for the Ronk tribesfolk to climb up to their tree homes. At the top of each stairway, an opening 1.8 meters tall and 1.5 meters wide formed naturally in the trunk, with twisting branches interlocking to create a doorway frame. Windows dotted the sides and tops of each chamber. The leaves in these areas had turned translucent, layered together to form lattice panes that glinted like colored glass from afar. Thick horizontal branches wove into suspended walkways connecting many of the tree chambers. Jiang Sun watched in fascination. From a distance, the trees looked oddly, as if each one carried a bulging midsection. He burst out laughing. Who came up with this design? Granny Roan glanced at him. Yuan sculpt trees respond easily to thought. Simply touch the trunk. Visualize the shape you want, and the tree will grow to match it. The final design was Xiao Zhao's idea. We originally wove simple wooden huts from branches, but they weren't sturdy enough. Jiang Sun blinked. The design was perfectly in line with Xiao Xiao's whimsical style. He walked up to one Yuan sculpt tree and placed his palm against the trunk. Closing his eyes, he silently wished for a new branch to extend leftward from the highest point of the canopy. When he opened his eyes and watched, a tender green shoot slowly unfurled from the upper left of the crown. It swayed lightly in mid-air, stretching steadily in the direction he had imagined. This was incredible fun. If children could play with something like this, it would beat modeling clay and building blocks by a mile. He tried again. Shift a little further right. The new branch immediately adjusted its course. This thing is amazing, Jiang Sun exclaimed. His playful side awakened. He stepped onto the woven branch stairs and climbed into one of the tree chambers. Inside, the space was far larger than he expected. Guided by conscious thought, the tree's internal fibers expanded outward to form oval-shaped rooms. The walls were formed from condensed wood fiber, smooth and warm to the touch, never cold like stone. Some chambers were split into 2 levels, with thick branches growing horizontally to create natural frames for tree beds. Windows lined the walls, their frames woven from twisting branches into intricate vine patterns more beautiful than any man-made carving. A few chambers already held simple furniture, and the cheerful chatter of young Ronk tribesfolk drifted out. Children ran along the suspended walkways, their rabbit ears bouncing with every step. Looking out one window, Jiang Sun spotted a young Ronk boy standing on the walkway. He emptied his bladder onto a stone below. The adult tribesfolk watching laughed aloud instead of scolding him. Granny Roan, who had followed Jiang Sun, rubbed her forehead helplessly. Master, the children have always run wild. They're a little too mischievous. Jiang Sun laughed heartily. Mischief is a good thing. Children who are lively often grow into capable adults. They descended from the tree chamber and chatted as they walked. Granny, are you all comfortable living here? More than comfortable. Granny Roan narrowed her eyes and gazed into the distance. This place is far better than our old tribal lands. We have little to fear from monsters here. Any minor beasts that appear can be handled by the tribe. The children can grow up happily, never worrying about food, clothing, or shelter. We are truly grateful that you have granted our tribe such a perfect place to thrive. Jiang Sun smiled. Initially, he had not set out to shelter the tribe. His goal had been developing the secret realm. Still, seeing the children so happy filled him with warmth. In the distance, Uncle Ashing squatted along the edge of the Yuan rice field, holding a thin bamboo pole as he patrolled the crops. Whenever he spotted a tilted seedling, he gently straightened it, tending to the shoots as if they were priceless treasures. Uncle Ashing, how long until we can harvest and eat this rice? Uncle Ashing did not lift his head. You glutton. You're already thinking about eating it right after planting. I'm just asking. A minimum of 3 months. That long. Uncle Ashing finally looked up at him. Do you think farming is like hunting monsters? Strike once, and experience points pour in. Jiang Sun fell silent. He supposed that was true. Not far from Uncle Ashing's cabin stood another building distinct from the tree chambers. A 2-story wooden building, mostly finished, with only minor finishing touches remaining. Jiang Sun had no idea who had constructed it. Every time he entered the secret realm, he ate, slept, and then left. He only knew it was meant for his mother and Jiang Xiao. He suddenly worried. Had they forgotten to set aside a room for him? Jiang Sun hurried up the steps and entered the ground floor. The rich aroma of home cooking drifted out, definitely his mother's cooking. Mom, I'm back. This wooden building went up fast. Did you save a room for me? Su Xiaolong glanced up at him. If we hadn't, would you have gotten around to building it yourself? Everything would have gone cold waiting. Ignoring his mother's teasing, Jiang Sun looked around the building. The main hall on the ground floor was bright and spacious. Upstairs were 4 separate rooms with large windows looking out toward the spirit farmland. The first floor was open plan, and the second story featured a wide terrace. Su Xiaolan was busy at the kitchen on the ground level. Several young Ronk children lined up at the kitchen door, each holding a bowl and waiting eagerly. Wearing an apron, Su Xiaolan ladled food into their bowls with a large spoon. Slow down, one at a time. Everyone gets a share. Auntie, can I have extra soup? Auntie, I don't like green onions. Auntie, could I have 2 pieces of meat? Su Xiaolan agreed to every request, murmuring, all right, as she served each child. Jiang Sun leaned against the doorframe and watched, a quiet sense of peace settling over him. This was life. This was what home felt like. Then he saw Jiang Xiaoxiao. She squatted in a small vegetable plot behind the kitchen, holding a blade of grass and carefully teasing a 3-eyed hare. The hare was native to the secret realm, small with pure white fur. Its third eye on its forehead hung half, closed, looking utterly adorable. Jiang Xiaoxiao held the grass out to its mouth. The hare sniffed it and bit down. Eyes lighting up, she reached out to stroke its head. The 3-eyed hare hopped back 2 steps warily, then turned to stare at her. Hey, you little thief, don't run. I won't hurt you. I just want to pet you. No one could tell if she only wanted to pet it or planned to cook it later. Jiang Xiaoxiao chased the hare all across the vegetable plot, trampling several newly sprouted green vegetables. Su Xiaolan sighed loudly. Jiang Xiaoxiao, if you crush any more of my vegetables, you won't get dinner tonight. Jiang Xiaoxiao skidded to a halt, sheepishly walking back inside to sit at the table. Jiang Sun shook with silent laughter. Everything here felt alive. It was wonderful. Dinner time soon arrived. Su Xiaolan had spent the whole afternoon cooking, filling the table with dishes. Steamed fish, braised pork, fried spirit vegetables, and a pot of piping hot mushroom soup. There was also a basin of sweet rice cakes specially made for the Ronk children, sprinkled with dried, crushed flower petals. Jiang Sun stared at the table and swallowed hard. He secretly picked up 1 cake and popped it into his mouth. The sweet flavor of yuan rice mixed with natural floral fragrance spread across his tongue. Mom, what's the occasion for such a feast? Jiang Sun mumbled with his mouth full. Occasion? Su Xiaolan took off her apron and looked him up and down. She let out a relieved breath once she confirmed he was unharmed. You came back alive from the battlefield. Isn't that worth celebrating? You reckless boy, you rushed off to defend against the beast tide without a word. I only found out from your classmate Li Lingxi. Warmth washed over Jiang Sun. This was the feeling of being cared for by family. A mother always worries when her child travels far. Clearly, his mother cared about him. As for his legitimate younger sister, he huffed silently. He had kept the news from her to avoid making her anxious, yet she had learned anyway. He summoned all 4 of his contracted beasts. His 4 companions no longer looked completely bizarre. At the very least, all of them had mouths capable of eating now. Whether sharp metal jaws, fish lips, or small feline muzzles, each one could take food. Kiechio hovered near Jiang Sun on short limbs, its dark, gold shell glinting under the light. Salted fish floated in mid-air, narrowing its single eye. This smells excellent. This lady would like to sample some. Ling Yu stood quietly beside Jiang Sun. Her gaze swept over the table and a faint gentle smile tugged at her lips, like a kind neighbor's elder sister. As soon as Hajime appeared, it twitched its nose, looking every inch the greedy cat. The scent of braised pork drifted into its nostrils. In the blink of an eye, it leapt onto the table. It opened its mouth to bite the meat. Jiang Sun moved quickly and grabbed the scruff of its neck. Hajime hung suspended in the air, its tail wagging awkwardly. Wait your turn. Where are your manners? Jiang Sun set Hajime into Ling Yu's arms. Ling Yu stroked its fur affectionately, immediately fond of her new 4th sister. Su Xiaolan finished serving the Ronk children. Jiang Sun arranged the table, and everyone took their seats. Granny Rong and Uncle Ashing joined them as well. Throughout the meal, Granny Rong praised Su Xiaolan's cooking, and everyone chatted happily. The most entertaining sight was the chaotic bunch of companions. Jiang Xiaoxiao, the little troublemaker, had finally met her match. She lifted a chunk of braised pork and brought it toward her mouth. When she bit down, there was nothing but air. Confused, she wondered if she was imagining things. She picked up another piece of pork, checking to make sure it was real. Again she brought it to her mouth, and again she bit nothing but chopsticks. Where had her big chunk of braised pork gone? A ripple distorted the air beside Jiang Xiaoxiao. Hajime dropped its invisibility, chewing contentedly. Hajime had stolen the meat completely unnoticed. You mischievous cat. You stole my pork. She reached out to catch Hajime, who dodged nimbly. The two chased each other straight out of the house. Watching the scene, Jiang Sun laughed. Without hesitation, he dug into the meal. He first served braised pork to his mother, Uncle Ashing, and Granny Rome, then began eating heartily. When Xiao Xiao returned, she saw an empty plate that had once held braised pork. She nearly teared up. Her favorite braised pork was gone. She glanced at her brother, his cheeks stuffed full of the meat. Their mother sighed and brought out another plate from the kitchen. Jiang Sun's plan to tease his sister had failed. Horrible brother. You did that on purpose. You set your contracted beast on me so you could eat all the pork yourself. Naturally, competition between siblings has always been this way. If you aren't vigilant, don't blame anyone else, ha. He flicked her forehead with his finger. The two bickered and tussled playfully. After dinner, Jiang Sun pulled a glowing pendant from his robe and handed it to her. Sleeping fish pendant, common gear, defense +1. Attached ability, a whisper illusion. When held, it allows the user to alter their voice at will. Jiang Sun had spotted it at a stall run by a casual player in Blackstone Town. Every time he saw the measly +1 defense stat, he thought it existed purely for comedic effect. Though its practical use was limited, it made a decent toy, so he had bought it intending to give it to Jiang Xiaoxiao. Once she received the gift from her brother, Jiang Xiaoxiao forgot all her earlier frustration. She turned the pendant over in her hands, utterly captivated. A little while later, her curiosity shifted to Tietio. She wondered how the metal ball managed to fly. Quietly creeping up behind it, she reached out and rubbed its smooth metallic head. Iron Ball, young lady, take it easy on me. I'm already bald. Don't rub my skin raw. Jiang Xiaoxia froze for a moment, then burst out laughing. Iron Ball, you can talk. Sure thing, obviously. Say another line. Iron Ball struggled for a long time before managing a reply. Are you being polite? The blockhead can actually think now. Truly something to celebrate. Jiang Xiaoxia nearly tumbled off her stool from laughing. Saltfish drifted over, looking down at Jiang Xiaoxia. You're the master's younger sister? You look small and frail, not much bulk to you. Jiang Xiaoxia looked up. Wow, Saltfish, you look different now. You've got one eye. Did a monster hurt you? You're the one who got attacked by monsters. This young lady evolved. Do you know what evolution means? But you still look tiny. Doesn't evolution make you bigger? What do you know? This young lady just chose not to grow. Then show me you can get bigger. Saltfish hesitated for a while and realized she couldn't actually activate that ability. She huffed and turned to drift away. This young lady won't stoop to argue with you. Jiang Xiaoxia finally regained a little confidence after teasing Saltfish. Su Xiaolan watched on, shaking her head helplessly, and filled Granny Rome's bowl with more soup. Ling Yu sat quietly beside them, occasionally picking up a chopstick of food for Jiang Sun with gentle movements. Saltfish was quick to forget her frustration and floated back to her seat. This young lady wants to try that sweet rice cake too. She stretched out her short, chubby hands, grabbed a piece and stuffed it into her fish mouth, eating with great enjoyment. When everyone finished eating, Uncle Ashing and Granny Rong headed home separately. Su Xiaolan began clearing the tableware, while Ling Yu helped beside her. Jiang Xiaoxia squatted in the corner, still trying to make peace with Hachimi. She held out a small piece of rice cake. Hachimi crouched 2 steps away, watching her warily. Come on, have this. If you take it, I'll forgive you, and I promise I won't chase you anymore. Hachimi meowed twice, as if saying, if I trust you, I'm a fool. I mean it, I swear. Hachimi hesitated, slowly stepped forward, snatched the rice cake from her hand, and darted back to the corner. Jiang Xiaoxia smiled. Jiang Sun sat on the doorframe, breathing in the gentle breeze blowing through the secret realm. His 4 summoned beasts roamed around, each occupied with their own amusements, carefree. Life may deal me countless hardships, yet I still greet life with an open heart. Time to sleep. The siege battle had truly worn Jiang Sun out. He walked into his room, lay down on the bed, and drifted off into a deep sleep. In a daze, he dreamed. He dreamed he had become the war god of Daxia, standing imposingly among the clouds. Behind him, countless summoned beasts stretched across the sky, blocking out the sun. Anyone who displeased him would receive a heavy blow. He stood high above the clouds, pointing toward the heavens and laughing loudly. He slowly blinked awake, having slept straight through until morning. The domineering aura he had possessed in his dreams still lingered in his mind. When would he reach that level? He sighed to himself. Couldn't these universal experience points just activate instantly? If that were possible, he could become the strongest being in the world right away. The windows on the 2nd floor of the wooden building were wide open. Morning sunlight streamed in from the direction of the spirit fields, falling across Jiang Sun's body. The sun really had risen high enough to warm his body as he finally got out of bed. An elderly voice drifted in from outside the window. Young lad, I see you possess extraordinary bones and remarkable talent. Would you like to learn the most powerful divine ability under heaven? I would. I want to become unmatched across the world immediately. The elderly voice continued. That can be arranged. Call me master, and I shall pass down the divine art that grants invincibility. Then came a yelp of surprise. Before Jiang Xiaoxia could enjoy acting the mysterious elder, Jiang Sun leaned out of the window and flicked her forehead. The elder's scheme had failed before it even began. Her head struck first. Jiang Xiaoxia clutched the pendant in one hand, the gift Jiang Sun had given her the previous day. Aren't you childish? Trying to trick your own brother. You'd need another 100 years to pull that off. Seeing her trick fail, Jiang Xiaoxia covered her forehead and ran off. This mischievous girl never knew when to settle down. Jiang Sun stepped back inside, flopped onto the bed to laze a little longer. As the old saying goes, seize leisure time when you can. He lay on the bed lost in thought, gradually pulling his mind away from the vision of his invincible self in the dream. What had he dreamed again? Right, the war god of Daxia, standing among the clouds with a host of summoned beasts covering the sky, striking down anyone who annoyed him. It sounded rather thrilling. Unfortunately, reality told him he was still lying in bed, unknown to most. Jiang Sun sat up and stretched. His bones popped and cracked. That long sleep had left him feeling thoroughly refreshed. From downstairs came the steady chopping sound of Su Xiaolan preparing ingredients. The aroma of simmering congee drifted over from the kitchen, mixed with the scent of sautéed green onions. He did not rush downstairs just yet. He opened his system panel. It was time to sort out his gains. First, the 2 rewards from defending the city, which he had not yet opened. A random skill book and a black iron material parcel, extra rewards from the city defense quest. He had not been in the mood to look at them earlier. Now that he had recovered his spirits, it was time to open the spoils. His 4 summoned beasts had run off somewhere to play. Not a single one was in sight when Jiang Sun woke up. He took out the black iron material parcel from his backpack and opened it first. Open black iron material parcel ×1. Obtained, spirit wood core ×3, primordial crystal shard ×5, beast tendon ×2, pack of spirit grass seeds ×1. What even are all these things? He could try planting the spirit grass seeds within the secret realm and cultivate more. Beast tendons were materials for crafting first-tier bows. Primordial crystal shards could rapidly restore primordial energy. A mixed bag of supplies, none of which Jiang Sun had an immediate use for. Jiang Sun stored away the materials and pulled out the random skill book. Every time he saw the word random, unease tugged at him. In the world of Guanlan, skills came in endless varieties. Random skills were truly unpredictable. They might suit your class and combat system perfectly, or they could be completely irrelevant. Even so, many players loved gambling on random skill books. If you drew a high-tier skill, you hit the jackpot. He took a deep breath and activated the random skill book. A flash of white light appeared. Obtained skill, Boundless Communication. Boundless Communication active skill gold, tier LV1. You may send mental messages to any target marked by you. Mana consumption rises with distance. Wow, he actually unlocked a gold tier skill. That was pure luck. After reading the skill description carefully, he realized it was practically tailor-made for him. Jiang Sun's gaze swept over the traits of his Life Seal Summoner class on his panel. Life Seal Imprint. You may place an invisible life seal on any target. The target cannot sense or remove it. Anyone branded with this mark carried a permanent tag. So far, the seal only allowed Jiang Sun to track their location, which was already powerful enough. Now he had a skill that paired perfectly with it. Simply put, it gave every life seal a one-way mental communication channel. This skill was ideal for crafty schemers. Jiang Sun could already picture the scene where Gu Tu, or the young woman from the Yuan cult, suddenly heard a voice echoing inside their heads. He was fully capable of confusing them completely. He sensed Jiang Xiaoxia's position. The previous day, Jiang Sun had planted life seals inside his mother, Jiang Xiaoxia, and Uncle Ashing. That way, he could locate them quickly if any emergency arose. Jiang Xiaoxia was not far away, moving rapidly, apparently chasing something. He quietly activated the skill, pinched his nose, and deepened his voice to sound solemn and ancient. Young lady, do you wish to grow stronger? A heavy voice echoed inside Jiang Xiaoxia's mind. Jiang Xiaoxia froze in her tracks. Who's speaking? You need not search for me. I exist everywhere. I sense a deep desire within your heart. Do you seek my assistance? Jiang Xiaoxia's eyes lit up. Could some immortal elder have taken notice of her? I must be the chosen one. Yes. Can you grant me the power to flick my brother's forehead? Her ambition is rather modest. Couldn't she wish to save the world or become an invincible supreme expert. I am an invincible supreme who lived tens of millions of years ago. I survived the great calamity that shook heaven and earth. Now my divine consciousness wanders across countless realms. I sense your pure heart and recognize you as a promising cultivator, hence I wish to nurture your talent. If you wish to accept my guidance, you must follow specific instructions, so I may transmit my power to you. Jiang Xiaoxia grew excited. An elder offering direct teachings. There was no time to waste. Tell me what I need to do, elder. I will follow every word, as long as you pass your power to me. Separated by countless realms, you must walk upside down with your legs crossed for 3 full days. At the same time, recite these words continuously. Jiang Sun's brother, handsome and imposing. Maintain this practice for 3 days, and the ritual will be complete. I shall then send you my power. Understood, I will do it. I await the completion of your ritual. Farewell, young friend. Having fooled Jiang Xiaoxia, Jiang Sun walked over to the window and looked out. Sure enough, Jiang Xiaoxia had begun walking upside down. Mao Chuanchuan wandered up to Jiang Xiaoxia and asked timidly, Young mistress, what are you doing? Have you fallen ill? Jiang Xiaoxia kept her voice low. Shu, be quiet. I am performing a sacred ritual. Once it succeeds, I will become immensely powerful. Mao Chuanchuan looked doubtful. Really? That ritual looks very strange. Maybe I should go play with Granny Rong instead. With that, Mao Chuanchuan ran off. Just look how frightened the child was. Watching the scene, Jiang Sun doubled over laughing. Jiang Xiaoxia was far too easy to trick. This skill was excellent, perfect for teasing others. Combined with his life seals, he could start a conversation to mislead people no matter how far apart they were. Soon, a strange sight unfolded on the first layer of the initial Sprout's secret realm. A 13 or 14-year-old girl walked upside down. At first she stumbled constantly, but slowly she grew steady. She muttered the chant under her breath non-stop. Anyone listening heard the words, Jiang Sun's brother, handsome and imposing. What a silly girl wandering around walking on her hands. Before long, the savory smell of breakfast drifted upward. It was time to eat. Jiang Sun decided to get up. He tidied himself quickly, his hair sticking up messily, and headed down from the second floor. He pulled out a chair and sat down, lifting his bowl ready to eat, when he saw a figure shuffle into the doorway head first. It was Jiang Xiaoxia, head pointed down, feet raised upward, supporting herself on her hands as she moved step by step into the room. She had grown remarkably steady, no longer wobbling. Jiang Sun stole a glance, holding back laughter. He wondered how she planned to eat like this. If she stood up to eat, the ritual would be broken, and she would never receive the promised power. Silly as she was, she had the young adopted child with her. Mao Chuanchuan followed closely beside her. Jiang Xiaoxia reached the dining table and realized she could not eat in this position. She signaled Mao Chuanchuan with her eyes to feed her. Mao Chuanchuan obeyed. She filled a bowl with food and fed Jiang Xiaoxia bite by bite. One walking upside down, the other feeding her. The odd sight somehow carried a strange sort of harmony. The scene looked undeniably bizarre. Su Xiaolan walked out from the kitchen, carrying soup. She nearly spilled the bowl at the sight. Jiang Xiaoxia, has this girl lost her wits? What mischief are you up to now? Mother, do not interfere. I am carrying out a sacred ritual. You would not understand. Jiang Sun lowered his head, his shoulders shaking as he struggled to hold back his laughter. Mao Chuanchuan, you should not indulge her. Stop feeding her. Let her go hungry. Mao Chuanchuan looked innocent. Young mistress wants to grow stronger. I cannot let her starve. Breakfast proceeded amid this surreal atmosphere. Jiang Sun struggled painfully to contain his laughter, nearly choking on his food. He needed to escape before he burst out laughing. He wolfed down his meal quickly. While Jiang Xiaoxia was still turning circles upside down, he leapt straight to the 5th layer of the initial Sprout Root secret realm. The primordial energy on the 5th layer remained thick as ever. The great hall stood vast and empty, with nothing inside. This would not do. He would ask his mother to decorate the place sometime. It felt far too barren. He sat cross-legged and opened his panel. Experience pool, 234,200. He had never held such a large reserve of experience. Even a miser could feel wealthy for once. He first checked how much universal experience would be required to advance his 3 main summoned beasts further after reaching Platinum tier. The numbers left him stunned. Iron Ball Platinum LV8. Advancement to Epic tier requires 3 million universal experience points. Insufficient experience. Jiang Sun counted the zeros repeatedly. A full 3 million points. Even with the cultivation discount, he still needed 900,000 universal experience points. How long would it take to farm that much? The gap between tiers was enormous. Advancing from gold to platinum had only required 100,000 points. Why did this next tier demand 3 million? Gaze upon me and answer, Guanlan. He sighed. Advancing his summoned beasts further would be impossible in the near future. Hachimi had enough experience to level up, but she was not a damage dealer, so he put that plan aside for now. He turned his attention to his own skills. Summoned Creature Enhancement Silver LV.1, Mana Projectile Basic LV.1, Life Source Black Iron LV.9, Mana Circulation Black Iron LV.9, Summoning Art Black Iron LV.1, Life Protection Bronze LV.1, Boundless Communication Gold LV.1. These were all his current skills, excluding the innate abilities granted by the Life Seal Summoner class. Staring at the gleaming gold tier Boundless Communication LV.1, Jiang Sun mused. The skill did not boost combat power at all, yet it held the highest grade. Looking at the rest, a mix of bronze, black iron, and even a basic grade skill, he felt a headache coming on. Improving his skills would be a long journey. He ought to prioritize leveling 1 or 2 skills. There was no point hoarding universal experience endlessly. His choices settled on Summoned Creature Enhancement and Mana Projectile. As a man aiming to become the strongest summoner, he could not rely solely on his beasts to deal damage. He planned to build himself into a powerful basic attacker. Instead of chasing countless fancy skills, he would max out his basic strike ability to unleash devastating damage. Summoned Creature Enhancement was currently Black Iron LV.6, granting a 100% boost to all summoned creature attributes. This skill formed the foundation for all his summons. Every stat his beasts possessed relied on this multiplier. Today's goal was clear: pour experience into it and raise it as high as possible. He checked the experience cost for each stage and rapidly calculated in his mind, counting on his fingers, then his toes, and plucking at his hair as he worked out the numbers. Advancing from Black Iron LV.6 to LV.9 required roughly 14,000 universal experience points. Breaking through to Bronze tier needed another 10,000. Maxing out all 9 bronze levels would cost a further 137,000. Breaking through to Silver tier demanded 50,000 more. The original total exceeded 200,000, but with the 30% discount active on the 5th layer, he only needed just over 60,000. It was a bargain. Without further hesitation, he began investing experience. Universal experience, 1200. Summoned Creature Enhancement Black Iron LV.6 rises to LV.7. All summoned creature attributes plus 110% universal experience, 1380. Summoned Creature Enhancement Black Iron LV.7 rises to LV.8. All summoned creature attributes plus 120%. Universal experience, 1590. Summoned Creature Enhancement Black Iron LV.8 rises to LV.9. All summoned creature attributes plus 130%. He reached the maximum Black Iron level. A breakthrough option appeared on the panel. Universal experience, 3000. Summoned Creature Enhancement Black Iron LV.9 breaks through to Summoned Creature Enhancement Bronze LV.1. All summoned creature attributes plus 140%. He continued pouring experience into the Bronze tier skill. Costs rose with each level, but the discounted price only ranged from several thousand to 10,000 points per upgrade. Universal experience, 3000. Summoned Creature Enhancement Bronze LV.1 rises to LV.2. All summoned creature attributes plus 150%. Universal experience, 3450. Summoned Creature Enhancement Bronze LV.2 rises to LV.3. All summoned creature attributes plus 160% universal experience, 6150. Summoned Creature Enhancement Bronze LV.8 rises to LV.9. All summoned creature attributes plus 220%. He leveled it all the way to maximum Bronze tier, then broke through to Silver. Universal experience, 15,000. Summoned Creature Enhancement Bronze LV.9 breaks restriction to Summoned Creature Enhancement Silver LV.1. Summoned Creature Enhancement Silver LV.1. All summoned creature attributes plus 230%. Originally, his summons only gained a doubling of their attributes. Now their power was boosted more than twofold. For the moment, this was sufficient. Almost immediately, for streams of thought reached him from 4 different directions. Iron Ball's mind carried confused wonder. It feels like I've grown stronger. Saltfish sent a drawn-out exclamation. Oh ho, this feels great. Ling Yu smiled faintly, slowly sensing the power stirring within her body. Hachimi was only concerned with eating and sleeping. She yawned, rolled over, and went back to sleep. She paid no attention to the power increase at all. Her attitude rivaled Saltfish's. Jiang Sun curled his lips into a smile and paid them no mind. Next came his main priority, Mana Projectile. He had gained this skill the day he awakened his class, yet he had barely used it or upgraded it once. From now on, Jiang Sun refused to remain a summoner who could not defend himself. He intended to become a mana artillery platform. He was a summoner with dreams of dealing damage, so this skill would receive all his attention. The greatest advantage of Mana Projectile was its lack of cooldown and mana cost. If he upgraded it all the way to Platinum or Epic tier, his personal damage output would become unmatched. As a basic attack skill, its attack speed matched his casting speed. Basic LV.1 dealt damage equal to 0.5 times his intelligence stat. The damage output was pitifully low. He still remembered his first trip to the initial Sprout Secret Realm to farm monsters. He fired one mana projectile at a hard shell beetle, dealing a mere 7 points of damage. He spent ages kiting the creature before finally defeating it. By the time the beetle died, he was exhausted. After that experience, he never used the skill again, letting his summoned beasts handle all combat. Things would be different now. He planned to raise this skill from the basic grade upward. He would show everyone what a summoner could achieve when he stepped onto the battlefield himself. There was another important reason. When danger struck in the future, Jiang Sun did not want to be the weakest member of his group. He wanted others to underestimate him, only to discover they faced a ferocious powerhouse the moment they fought him directly. He needed to improve all his personal capabilities: health, attack power, defense, speed, survival skills, and more. No need to rush, Jiang Sun thought silently. One day he would truly stand above all others. His goal was clear: remain within the first tier, yet be unrivaled among all first and second tier cultivators. He glanced at the upgrade cost chart. The 30% discount applied to every purchase, an incredibly favorable deal. He began leveling starting from the basic grade. He checked the costs once more. The discount was truly wonderful. Universal Experience, 2154. Mana Projectile Basic LV1, LV9. Damage Multiplier. Intelligence times 0.50, intelligence times 1.07. He continued breaking through to Black Iron tier. Universal Experience, 600. Mana Projectile Basic LV9 advances to Mana Projectile Black Iron LV1. Damage dealt equals intelligence times 1.18. He could not be certain, but as the skill broke through, Jiang Sun felt a faint shift within his body, as if some latent ability had awakened, yet he could not pinpoint exactly what had changed. Could it be his formidable strength? Ha ha ha. He gathered his focus and continued upgrading the Black Iron tier skill. Universal Experience, 600. Mana Bolt Black Iron LV1 LV2. Intelligence times 1.18, intelligence times 1.30, Universal Experience. 900. Mana Bolt Black Iron LV4 LV5. Intelligence times 1.57, intelligence times 1.73. Universal Experience, 1590. Mana Bolt Black Iron LV8 LV9. Intelligence times 2.30, intelligence times 2.53. He raised his hand and fired a shot toward the empty space in the corner of the Great Hall. A ball of blue-white energy shot forth, slamming into the wall with a dull thud. The sound was quiet, yet far more powerful than the faint pop from before. What's more, the blue-white mana bolt was more than twice its original size, comparable to a mage's fireball. Another shot. This was only the beginning. He pushed onward, aiming to break through to the bronze tier. Universal Experience, 3000. Mana Bolt Black Iron LV9, Mana Bolt Bronze LV1. Damage dealt to target. Intelligence times 2.78. He kept pouring experience points into the bronze tier skill. Universal Experience, 3000. Mana Bolt Bronze LV1 LV2. Intelligence times 2.78, intelligence times 3.06. Universal Experience, 4560. Mana Bolt Bronze LV4 LV5. Intelligence times 3.70, intelligence times 4.07. Universal Experience, 7980. Mana Bolt Bronze LV8 LV9. Intelligence times 5.42, intelligence times 5.96. He loosed another shot. Jiang Sun could feel the energy gathering at his fingertips, growing vastly more immense the moment he cast the spell. The mana bolt shifted from white to blue, then deep blue. Tiny electric arcs flickered along its edges, and its flight speed had more than doubled. Boom! A deafening crash echoed out. A shallow indentation appeared on the wall, with cracks spreading outward like a spiderweb. Not bad at all. The results were promising. He pressed on, breaking through to Silver tier. Universal Experience, 15,000. Mana Bolt Bronze LV9, Mana Bolt Silver LV1. Damage dealt to target. Spell attack times 6.85, skill evolution. the skill's damage multiplier shifts from an intelligence multiplier to a spell attack multiplier. Unlocked additional effect, Dual Strike. Each cast unleashes 2 consecutive mana bolts targeting the same enemy. Jiang Sun had anticipated unexpected changes upon advancing the skill to silver tier, yet he never imagined such a massive surprise. Could this be because rare bonus effects appear more easily now that his universal experience ability had advanced to SSS rank? It must be so. An SSS rank ability truly stood apart. He carefully reread the newly updated skill description on his panel. Mana Bolt Silver LV. 1. Condense mana into a tangible spell attack. Effect. Each spell unleashes 2 consecutive mana bolts. Each bolt deals spell attack times 6.85 damage. Switching the damage multiplier from intelligence to spell attack alone brought a qualitative leap to the skill's power. On top of that came Dual Strike. 1 shot became 2, effectively doubling his damage output once more. Not bad. A living artillery piece was slowly taking shape. He continued pumping experience into the silver tier skill. Jiang Sun thoroughly enjoyed spending experience points this day. Universal experience minus 15,000. Mana Bolt Silver LV1 LV2. Spell attack times 6.85. Spell attack times 7.88. Universal experience minus 22,800. Mana Bolt Silver LV4 LV5. Spell attack times 10.42. Spell attack times 11.99. He poured all his remaining experience into the skill. Jiang Sun clicked his tongue. Leveling skills was incredibly addictive. He wanted to keep upgrading, but he had run out of universal experience. When the last of the experience was consumed and the mana bolt condensed in his palm, even he was stunned. It could barely be called a mana bolt anymore. It was a head-sized sphere of deep blue energy, its core compressed into a dense energy nucleus. The electric arcs along its outer layer no longer merely flickered, they crackled loudly. He could feel a tangible weight and steady pulse while holding it. He stood, aimed at the farthest wall in the hall, and unleashed the full, powered shot. Boom. The explosion dwarfed every previous blast combined. Shockwaves rippled outward from the impact point. A fist-sized pit formed on the wall, covered in dense cracks spreading like tortoiseshell patterns. A burnt smell filled the air, thin wisps of smoke rising from the indentation. Looking at the crater, Jiang Sun broke into a grin. From now on, anyone who called him a weak summoner would get a face full of mana bolt. A combination of crushing impact and electric damage, enough to overwhelm any foe. Jiang Sun chuckled to himself. He finally possessed reliable offensive power. In past battles, he could only rely on his summoned beasts. It was normal for summoners to deal damage and absorb damage through their summons. Still, he had always hated relying solely on them. Things were different now. Times change. Jiang Sun could now unleash devastating power with his own hands. There was still more to do. He had accumulated a large number of attribute points and free attribute points. Now was the time to allocate them. Improvement meant growing stronger in every aspect. He opened his status panel and focused on the line showing his free attribute points. Free attribute points, 55. He had saved all of them since awakening his class without spending a single one. Earlier, he had been unsure where to allocate them. All 4 base stats had seemed secondary, as long as his summons could fight. Now, however, he needed to be capable of combat personally. 5 points, distributed evenly. Constitution, 68 plus 1482. Strength, 32 plus 1345. Agility, 43 plus 1457. Intelligence, 49 plus 1463. The moment he finished allocating points, warm power surged deep within his body, bringing a pleasant tingling sensation. He could feel his vitality growing more robust, his limbs lighter, and his mind sharper than before. He opened his panel and scanned every stat line. HP, 8350 without gear, plus 2610 from life source, plus 50 from toughness belt. Total, 11010. Mana, 584. Physical attack, 275. Spell attack, 521. Yet once Mana Bolt reached Silver LV.5, its actual damage far exceeded the base value of 521. He silently did the calculations. With a multiplier of 11.99, each bolt hit for over 6,000 damage. Coupled with Silver Tier's Dual Strike, 2 bolts fired at once for upwards of 12,000 damage total. Considering the skill had no cooldown, he could barely imagine how destructive sustained fire would be. Physical defense, 147. Spell defense, 113. Critical rate approached 20%, as did evasion rate. The life barrier skill generated a shield equal to 20% of the combined maximum HP of his 4 summons. roughly over 20,000, refreshing every 3 minutes. He had spent most of the day burning his experience pool from 230,000 down to less than 26,000, transforming himself entirely. He had once been defined only as a summoner. He remained a summoner, but now he was a summoner who could both take hits and dish out damage. Jiang Sun stood and stretched. His bones popped continuously. Fifth layer vital energy circulated around his body, the satisfying fullness from raising his attributes lingering within him. Yet when he thought of the armored giant scorpion from the Beast Tide Siege, 800,000 HP and over 10,000 attack power, he hesitated. He could not afford reckless action. Steady, quiet growth remained the wisest path. Having nearly exhausted his universal experience, Jiang Sun began planning his next moves. His top priority was earning more universal experience. The National Professional Tournament would start in 1 month's time. He expected to represent the Qingmu City Summoners Guild at the event. That was not an urgent concern. Plenty of time remained to raise his strength steadily. First, he needed faster ways to farm universal experience. Matching the massive gains from the siege would be difficult, yet he could not afford to slow down. Second was the Void Spirit Tower. He had long intended to challenge it. The skill rewards there had tempted him for ages. Then there were the Abyss Cult and the Blood Moon Cult. Both factions had crossed him. Jiang Sun's principle was simple. Those who provoked him would face retaliation. He was not one to let slights slide. He still had more than 20,000 universal experience left. He might as well level up his summoned beasts. Lingyu was LV9, Iron Ball LV8, Salted Fish had already hit LV10, while Hockey was the lowest at only LV1. Jiang Sun sat cross-legged in the Great Hall on the 5th floor and opened his panel. He glanced at the experience cost rates. The 30% discount was too good to pass up. He started upgrading Iron Ball first. Universal experience minus 5,850. Iron Ball Platinum LV8 LV9. Universal experience minus 7,063. Iron Ball Platinum LV9 LV10 next. Lingyu. Universal experience minus 7,063. Lingyu Platinum LV9 LV10. A gentle thread of Lingyu's consciousness brushed against his mind, like a quiet word of thanks. As always after leveling his summons, he checked their updated stats to ease the sting of spending universal experience. Iron Ball Platinum LV.10, HP, 16916, Attack, 1692, Defense, 2537 Lingyu Platinum LV. 10, HP, 14656, Attack, 3382, Defense, 1973. A smile spread across Jiang Sun's face as he stared at the numbers. These values did not yet include the 230% summon creature enhancement bonus and the additional 15% boost from his cultivation technique. Even without those buffs, their stats were already formidable. Once all enhancements were applied, Iron Ball would possess over 4,000 HP, 6,400 attack, and 9,600 defense. Lingyu would have 55,000 HP, a staggering 12,000 attack, and 7,400 defense. Just these two alone stood as absolute stat monsters. Their HP and defense surpassed peak first-tier shield warriors. Their attack outmatched peak first-tier assassins and archers. They were versatile powerhouses. This was exactly what he wanted. The tide had turned. Jiang Sun laughed quietly. While Jiang Sun underwent massive cultivation gains inside the secret realm, in an ordinary residential building in southern Qingmu City, Gu Tu sat on a sofa, fixated on his own talent. The divine blood bestowed by the deity's phantom had been stolen. Worse still, the deity's avatar had been cut to pieces by the great Xia war god. His talent advancement would be delayed indefinitely. He closed his eyes and drew a deep breath. He had been so close. That precious divine blood had drifted straight toward him, only to be snatched away by an unknown youth. He had spent half a year planning, emptied all his resources, and triggered the beast tide, yet everything had fallen apart at the final moment. Rage burned inside him. He longed to capture the thief and exact cruel vengeance. He replayed the young man's face in his mind again and again. It was him. He waved his hand. 3 faint figures materialized in the room and knelt respectfully before him. These were his most trusted subordinates. They must find that young man. Gu Tu used magic to project an image of Jiang Sun's face. Find this person. Gu Sun ground out each word. Once you locate him, do not strike. Track his residence, his associates, uncover every detail about him. The lead man, known as Old Yu, nodded respectfully and departed with the other 2. Gu Tu remained seated in the living room, gazing at the clear blue sky outside as his thoughts wandered. He wanted nothing more than to hunt his target down and torture him to death immediately, yet a glimmer of hope lingered. What if he could interrogate the youth for information on the divine blood, or find a method to extract the stolen divine blood for himself? For that, he needed patience and careful plotting. The atmosphere at Qingmu City Central Square was heavy that day. A memorial ceremony was held for the professionals fallen in Blackstone Town. Spirit tablets filled the square, stretching from the center all the way to its edges, an endless expanse. A quick count showed more than 3,000 tablets, white cloths fluttering densely in the wind. Members of the Rock Guard, City Defense Army, and various combat groups were arranged without distinction, ordered only by name. All lives lost were equally worthy of remembrance. Lin Xiaoya's spirit tablet stood further back. Members of the Clear Du Regiment lined up in white robes, their expressions solemn. This trainee of the regiment had perished before her potential could bloom. Lu Rian lit an incense stick for Lin Xiaoya personally. As the regiment leader, she stood before the tablet for a long while after offering her respects before moving on to honor the next fallen comrade. City Lord Chen Qingyun stood on the platform clad in black, holding a list. He read names for a full quarter of an hour. He paused after every name. By the end, his voice grew hoarse. In the front row stood City Defense Army Commander Zhao Lai and Shi Pashan of the Rock Guard. Both were powerful fourth-tier professionals, normally imposing as stone walls, yet they stood rigid and silent today. Leaning against a pillar in a remote corner stood a man in Jing'an Division plain clothes with crossed arms. Hu Zheng. He seemed less here to mourn and more to observe, his gaze sweeping continuously across the crowd. Aside from the city lord's voice, scattered weeping echoed through the square, a mournful dirge for the departed, for the fallen warriors, for great Xia, for grieving families. A young woman clutched her child and cried. The confused boy reached toward the white cloth covering a spirit tablet. Someone beside her gently pulled the child's hand down. 3,100 or more professionals lost their lives defending Blackstone Town during this beast tide. Chen Qingyun's voice carried across the square. Chen Qingyun continued speaking. Compensation payouts would be tripled. Children of the fallen would receive priority employment opportunities. Proposals to upgrade regional defensive infrastructure had been approved by the council. He fell silent for several seconds after finishing his announcement. Observe a moment of silence. Complete quiet descended over the square. Jiang Sun stood among the crowd in plain gray robes, head bowed. His gaze fixed blankly on Lin Xiaoya's spirit tablet. He came to bid farewell to this familiar, yet distant classmate. Li Lingxi appeared beside him without him noticing. She wore black robes, her eyes red, struggling to hold back her sorrow. Lin Xiaoya told me once she broke through to first tier, she would invite all of us to a feast to gather properly. That chance will never come now. Jiang Sun did not speak. After a short pause, when did she say that? The day before the beast tide. Jiang Sun stiffened. He remembered that day. Lin Xiaoya had sought him out at the supply station and talked with him for hours. She complained about their class monitor, spoke of her imminent breakthrough, and said, "I'll treat everyone to a meal then. Don't turn me down." He had not thought much of it back then. Now he recalled how bright her eyes had been that day. Jiang Sun sniffled, an unexplained ache stinging his nose. Li Lingxi said nothing further. Many former classmates came to pay respects to Lin Xiaoya. The fortune teller Wu Banxian, the plump Ma Wei, gossip, loving son Xiao Qiao, and others. Jiang Sun was easygoing. He got along decently with all his classmates, though he had no closest friends. He chatted with each one, talking about their paths after graduating from school. They spoke of more than 10 classmates still awaiting awakening, who remained studying at the academy, endlessly envious of those who had gained classes. Wu Banxian turned to Jiang Sun. Your aura is troubled. Beware of coming misfortune in the days ahead. If not for the solemn occasion, Jiang Sun would have kicked him. Misfortune awaits you instead. Eventually, Li Lingxi spoke to him. You truly ought to stay vigilant. Wu Banxian may seem unreliable normally, but his divinations are usually accurate. Jiang Sun thanked her, yet suspicion stirred within him. Who could it be? Members of the Abyss cult? Or the Blood Moon cult warrior whose divine blood he had seized? This spelled trouble. That Blood Moon cult fighter was peak 3rd tier. He was far from strong enough to defeat him right now. He scanned the crowd, then glanced at Wu Banxian. He could not be certain how reliable the fortune teller's prediction was, yet Diviner was a valid class with genuine abilities. In any case, he would face whatever came. As the most outstanding new rising professional, he would meet the challenge head-on. Besides, Xingyao had his back. Wait, a thought struck him. He could teleport repeatedly over vast distances. Could Xingyao keep up with his movement? Good grief. It had taken him this long to realize such an obvious problem. Once the memorial concluded, the City Defense Army took charge of the coffins to transport them to the unified burial grounds. After the ceremony dispersed, Jiang Sun walked alone. He maintained a steady pace while browsing the system forum, searching for suitable monster hunting zones. Then he felt it, someone's gaze resting on him. A faint, subtle sensation of being watched. Jiang Sun did not alter his stride or breathing, continuing forward at the same rhythm. It was no illusion. The watchful gaze was faint, as if the observer feared detection. It pulled away after a few seconds, only to settle on him again moments later. Jiang Sun did not turn his head. He slowly sensed his surroundings until he pinpointed the figure. A life seal silently latched onto the stalker. He continued unhurriedly toward the teleportation array. Using the array as cover, he teleported straight into his secret realm. Try tracking him now. Let's see if they could locate him inside the secret realm. If they could, he would acknowledge their skill.